Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Supreme Court decisions and how they affect you here in Washington. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
Well, it looks like all the Pride people went back into the closet for the Iran versus Egypt match on Friday. They decided to pop back out for the Pride parade on Sunday, but the contrast could not be more clear. For those of you who missed our crazy broadcast on Friday from the World Cup when we were set up outside, everything they were doing for Pride was completely performative. Completely performative. Let's go back in time. Months ago, we find out that Seattle gets the World Cup. And then Seattle decides they're going to announce that we're having Pride Night without knowing who the teams are. They pick the end of June for that specific game because it's going to be Pride weekend here in Seattle. And then they find out that Egypt and Iran are going to be playing each other in this game. And the whole world starts laughing, especially conservative world and pro-Israel world and anti-Iran world and anybody with a brain. The lamestream media didn't figure this out until like the week before. Then they start talking about it. What's it going to be? What are we going to do? Then you start hearing from Egypt and Iran that they're really mad about this. And if they see any pride displays whatsoever, they're not going to play. If they're affected of it by any way, shape, or form, they're not going to play. So what happens? Me, my daughter, and young Zach take the death scooters down to the stadium, carrying all the radio gear. That was dangerous. Dangerous. Let's just put it that way. We get down to the stadium, and what do we see parked out front of the spot that we find? Literally right there is the Seattle Police Department vehicle, the cop car that's painted with all the pride colors, and it's painted that way year-round. We always make fun of that thing. Everybody always makes fun of that thing. It's always in every image of anything pride-related in Seattle is that cop car. And it's outside the stadium. So we see that there's a few cops standing around. So we go talk to them. Hey, is it okay to set up over here? We don't see any of these tame, lame little pride zones that you guys normally have. So can we set up right over here? The cop actually happened to be one I know. He said, no problem. Go set up right over there. And I thought it was weird that such a high-ranking police officer was down there seemingly being a beat cop. I was a little surprised by that. Turns out the reason they were there was for a photo shoot of the stupid car with the stadium in the background, and you can see the dumb picture over on the Seattle Police Department social media accounts, and I have it from a different angle. And then they drove it away. And I'm thinking to myself, that's really odd. Wouldn't you leave it out here for the Pride match? We were out there for 3 hours on Friday. I apologize for the interference we were dealing with. It turns out that actually some agencies that shall remain nameless were actually doing some stuff on the airwaves that was interfering with our broadcast, but they were doing it to keep everybody safe. So I'll leave it at that. I have a source I don't want to compromise who told me what was going on, actually.
And to be clear, it wasn't really the broadcast, but the tools that you were using on site.
Exactly. That's what it was. And shall we just say some stuff that certain agencies were doing to keep everybody safe was interfering a smidgen with what we had going on there. So it got to the point where whatever they were doing, I had to call into my own radio show to do my own radio show. That's how nuts it got. So thank you for bearing with us. We'll fix it for the future. But what happened was, while we were down there, and you heard this while we were talking about that day, I saw tons of people who were there to support Egypt.
Sorry, one more on that.
Yeah.
Really guerrilla radio is what we're doing here.
Yes.
Like, in the amount of time that you had, and I was on vacation, so I can't speak for everything that went down.
Yes.
For the amount of time that you guys had to put this thing together and do the best that you can.
Yes.
With what's given to you.
Yes.
It's amazing that you were able to pull off what you did.
Thank you. Appreciate
And
that.
I would say that there's probably not, in fact, I'm just going to go out and say, another radio station like ours in town that would be able to do something like that or would attempt to do something like that.
I agree. I don't think anybody would attempt to do something like that, which is why we were the only ones out there. Literally the only ones. This was international buffoonery, and we are the only ones there?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I did see Jeremy Harris from Como News.
Yeah.
He was out there covering the protests and
Yeah, he's
stuff.
reporting like a
Right, he's
TV
reporting
reporter
like a
does.
reporter does. Nobody was doing what we were doing.
No.
Nobody. And in fact, we kept having more and more people come over and talk to us. In fact, this is really funny. Somebody sent me all these different clips. Apparently, the tourists were shocked to see a radio station out in the wild, and they kept taking pictures of me sitting at my little makeshift table that we had out there, and I made it into a bunch of these videos, which was pretty funny. Also, for KVI Nation, I didn't know so many of you were soccer fans. I may have to be a little bit more careful the way I talk about soccer, because one guy comes up to me and he goes, Ari, I'm a cyclist, I'm a soccer fan, and I listen to you 3 hours a day. Just consider that going forward. And I go, well, I used to be a cyclist. I'm not big on the soccer. So, okay, I will consider that going forward. So many people who listened to the show kept coming by. Oh, it's Ari Hoffman. I had to bleep the program a couple times for a couple of, holy, it's Ari. We did that. It was really nice to see so many of you. It really, really was. Wasn't expecting that. But there we are out there. Aside from the KVI listeners, what am I seeing? Egyptians who are wrapped in the Egypt flag, and they had the headdresses, and they were walking like Egyptians. We saw the people who were anti the Iranian regime. We saw a handful of people who were pro the Iranian regime. Very, very small amount of them. And then what did we see with the Pride people? Almost nobody. This one woman who was, actually, I don't want to assume this person's gender. This one individual kept walking back and forth with a Pride flag as a cape. They tried unsuccessfully to hang the Pride flag on the fencing of the venue, but didn't bring anything to hang it with. So I don't think they were the sharpest crayon in the box. And they were trying to do this, and then they gave up and put it around their shoulders again. I don't really know what they were trying to accomplish there, but then they walked away. I saw some people with Pride flags. And the people with the Pride flags, I said, oh, are they giving those out? They're the little kind. Like KVI gives out the American flags. They're these little Pride flags. Oh, are they giving those out? No. We brought them from home. This was a test of whether Seattle's politicians actually believe in these our values they claim to champion. If you're going to celebrate Pride, why are you staying silent when teams from countries that execute gay people come to your city? If Iran and Egypt are threatening to walk off the pitch, the field, if they're threatening to do that, then say, okay, here's our Pride stuff. I've never been this pro-Pride in my life. Then say, this is how we do it here in Seattle. You guys want to leave? Go ahead and leave. Because you care about the sports ball more than you care about walking off. You want that win. By the way, I love the fact that they tied. The only way it could have been better, where you have no winners, is if it had been 0-0. That is the only way it could have been better. But the Seattle politicians and the Seattle activist class failed the test. This was the Pride movement's biggest opportunity to make a statement, and they completely missed it. If America stands for free speech and equal rights, don't apologize for it. Say it proudly. Nobody is going to remember this soccer game. Take a stand for American values. That would have been remembered if they walked off the field and Katie Wilson said, oh, yeah, well, we're going to stand by our values. You know what? That clip would still be going viral today, and people like me would have to give her kudos for it. To the best of my knowledge, there was nothing in the stadium, nothing around the stadium. There were a few people with Pride flags here and there. That was it. The politicians who never miss an opportunity to virtue signal suddenly became very quiet when it actually mattered to their issues. The people protesting the Iranian regime showed more consistency than the politicians who claimed to champion LGBTQ rights. In fact, I saw people with Pride flags, not the TQ ones, just the regular Pride flags, marching with the anti-regime people. And they're not your usual pride activists. They're the ones who actually advocate for these rights, because if you are gay in Iran, they will throw you off the nearest building or they will hang you from the nearest crane. In Egypt, they do other awful things to you. So, this could have been a defining moment for Seattle. Instead, Seattle leaders chose silence. If your principles disappear, the moment they're inconvenienced, they aren't principles, they're performance. Where were all the activists? For all the noise they usually make, they're almost nowhere to be found. If you believe in something, then defend it. Then defend it. You know the only craziness that I saw while we were down there? So what happens is after we're done with the broadcast, we wrap up the broadcast, we're getting ready to leave, and Andrea Suarez from We Heart Seattle comes over. And she says, "Did you see the protesters?" I go, "No! We were here for the protesters. They were supposed to be here. They were supposed to be right in front of us. There was supposed to be the battle royale right here." And she says, "Well, they're keeping them away from the stadium. They're over there deeper into Pioneer Square." So Andrea says, "You want me to show you?" And I said, "Well, I got my daughter with me, so I can't do what I normally do. And I can't go out there because I can't put her at risk." And Andrea goes, "I will watch your daughter. I will take care of your daughter. I'll make sure she's safe. You can go cover the thing." Now, still, even though I trust Andrea, and even though I've been in a dangerous situation with Andrea before, going through homeless encampments and stuff, it's your daughter. You know, you worry about your daughter. I don't want to cause problems when my daughter's there. So I didn't go full Ari. You know, I didn't wrap myself in an American flag or an Israeli flag and go right through the Hamasniks. I didn't do that. But I'm covering it from the outside, and I've got a hat on, so people aren't really realizing it's me. I've got my sunglasses on. I got my hat on. That's just how I'm dressed that day. It wasn't to go incognito. And what happens? What do I see? So first thing I see is just the end of the block where we were. You have some people who support the regime trying to start fights with the anti-regime people and vice versa. But there were only really a handful of that, so there wasn't a lot of that. Wasn't really. I saw Bennett the protester somewhere in that mix there, and I'm not even sure he knows what side he's on. It was very confusing for him. I walk a little bit farther into Pioneer Square, deeper into Pioneer Square, and there is a whole bunch of anti-regime protesters that have set up the area right outside the area where everybody's filtering into the stadium. They're protesting there. They're not blocking anybody. They're doing it peacefully. Then I go deeper into Pioneer Square, and this group, Fedayeen, these guys are the pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah, anti-American, pro-communist, pro-socialist, pro-DSA, pro-terror lunatics, have used their banners to set up a soccer court, a soccer field, a soccer pitch for a 3x3 tournament they're having in Pioneer Square while waving massive terrorist flags, chanting against Israel, calling for Israel not to be in the World Cup. Guess what, guys? They didn't qualify for it. So what exactly are you doing? You're just having an anti-Semitic protest. That's what you're doing. We know that's what you're doing. That is all it was. And they're taking up the whole area, and it seems like the authorities are okay with them staying in their little area because they're not disrupting the game, and it's out of sight of the cameras. That was really it. That's all I really saw. Where were all the activists who claim, we fight for pride? What, Bob Ferguson, Katie Wilson, and crew putting up one social media post about it? Oh, we showed them how we did pride. I don't believe you. You're completely full of it. You guys caved to the jihadis. You guys caved because there's this weird coalition. Queers for Palestine is a perfect example, where you have this coalition where you don't want to offend the jihadis. So you put all the pride stuff away so you can have your soccer match. And it just shows you are willing to compromise your principles. You are willing to hide that stuff back in the closet when it's inconvenient. But when there's little kids around, then we let our freak flag flies. I don't know if you saw the video from the Pride Parade yesterday. So, fully naked men. Fully naked, I don't know what they were because they got all the equipment. I don't know what got added, what got subtracted. I have no idea. I got a good guess, but I don't know. Fully in front of kids, outside in the open in Seattle. The craziest one, here was the craziest one. The Seattle Mariners group is marching down the street. And the Mariner Moose has his antlers with little pride flags on them. Adorable. Lovely. The Mariner Moose is walking. Who's right behind him? a person, I don't want to assume their gender, in a Mariners jersey, waving, I kid you not, a Palestinian flag that has been updated with trans colors in it. So there's like a little bit of blue and a little bit of pink. And I go, this is what Gad Sad talks about when he talks about suicidal empathy in Gaza. They would literally throw you off the nearest rooftop for being gay if there were any rooftops left. And you're waving their flag updated with pride? Tell you what, take the next flotilla. Oh, wait, you won't get to Gaza if you try a flotilla. Go to Gaza. Bring that flag with you. Go into the middle of whatever city's still left. Try waving that flag and see what happens. Watch what happens. The Mariners don't have enough problems. So now they got to take on the Middle East and pride and all the stuff on top of it. That video from Jonathan Cho went mega viral in the last 24 hours. It's everywhere with everybody tagging the Mariners. Do we know if this person's officially part of the Mariners group? I don't know. They're right behind the Moose. They're in front of their truck. Look like they were part of the group. If the Mariners would actually get back to us for comment, we would actually know. Hey, I wonder if this is going to be like the Mamdani thing. Remember when Mamdani hugged Mr. Met and they lost 10 games in a row? What was it, 12, 13 games in a row? I wonder if this is going to be the same kind of thing because I hear the Mariners lost yesterday. This is literally suicidal empathy that we talk about all the time. We want to respect the people who kill members of the LGBTQ community. We want to respect them. Are you kidding me with this? I'm not one who advocates for pride, clearly. It's not my jam. We have people who listen to the show, and I say, you do you. Whatever you want to do, that is fine. It is not my job to judge what you do in your bedroom. That is your business. I only really comment on this stuff when it is your tax dollars being used, when it is targeted at the kids. So these guys show up for the Pride Parade yesterday, fully naked in Seattle Center, twerking all over the place, naked on 4th Avenue. But when they could have challenged the regime, they didn't have to be naked. When they could have challenged the regime with the flags and with the everything else, nowhere to be found? Is it the admission that they know that their jihadi allies do not approve of this kind of stuff and they're trying not to offend them? Is it, well, they're a minority and they just don't understand our ways? Is it cowardice? Or is it children are an easier target? Let's do all this stuff in front of them. I know there are plenty of people who listen to the show who are members of the LGB community, some even in the T community, who say this stuff does not represent us. We want to live our lives. We want to marry who we want. We want to be who we want. We want to be who we want to be. But we don't want to target kids. We don't want boys playing against girls. We don't want boys in girls' locker rooms. That stuff's insane. In fact, a few detransitioners came up to talk to me on Friday during the game about this. Some of them were the ones who got assaulted in Cal Anderson Park just a few days ago by the people who claim they stand for trans rights. They literally had an opportunity to put out their messaging to the entire world, and the activists didn't do it. The activists didn't do it. The activists were gone. The only ones who were there were people who listened to the show and people who were fighting the regime, who identify in that community. And the activists, the usual leftist activists, I didn't see any trans Tifa. I didn't see any of those people who show up anytime we do a signing event or any of that. I didn't see any of that, which shows me that in their hearts they're cowards, or they're acknowledging the reality that these allies they've picked want to kill them. Literally suicidal empathy. And yet they will continue being queers for Palestine. We will continue seeing that. Where was Bob Ferguson yesterday? Excuse me, on Friday. Where was Katie Wilson on Friday? Didn't see any of them around. Didn't see any of them around. Instead, we rolled out the red carpet for a terrorist regime that has killed over 1,000 Americans. Over 1,000 Americans. We rolled out the red carpet for them so they could play a soccer game. And then afterwards, when they were knocked out of the tournament, the captain of their team went around bashing the United States, and the local media, as well as the international media, oh, isn't it sad? They could have been a Cinderella story and they lost. They're a terrorist regime. Some of the members of their team are currently in jail right now for speaking out against the regime. Looks like these far left activists, their principles, disappear the minute they become inconvenient. If your principles disappear at the moment they're inconvenient, they aren't principles. They are completely performance. Up next, my friends, looks like a lot of you want to weigh in on this, so we will take your calls. We will take your texts. Plus, looks like our local officials, like Katie Wilson, forgot to clear out the homeless people for the Pride Parade. We'll tell you what happened yesterday when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So yesterday, if you look past the naked people riding their bikes down the street, and yes, I don't know, all of you who are texting on the show, why the police didn't arrest them. I guess the ones who drive the Pride car can't actually arrest anybody, or they're too busy on the floats or whatnot. You had fully naked people with the equipment hanging out at Seattle Center, on 4th Avenue. Cops did nothing. But if you're able to look past all that, the tents were still there. And I was kind of surprised by this. So the tents are still there as the parade is moving down 4th Avenue. And this morning, Kevin, I drove in that way just to see if they were still there. They're still there. I figured, okay, maybe they came back overnight. They didn't have time to clear them out. The World Cup's still going on. No, my friends. This is a taste of what is going to happen the second the World Cup is over. Because the area where the tents were, that's the area where the tents always are when it's not World Cup season. They were cleaned out for the World Cup. You forget to get rid of them for the parade? And by the way, I saw this in multiple camera angles from multiple people. They're all trying to work their way around the tents on the sidewalks during the parade. It's right across from where we were for the Seahawks parade. It's the same route. It's the same route on 4th Avenue. It's right there. And the tents, it was like 7 or 8 of them right there. That's a pretty big encampment not to get rid of on Pride Day. Whatever. Seattle's going to Seattle.
Well, those people walking that parade are tolerant of that.
Oh, very tolerant of that.
So they're like, we're not going to clear out our unsheltered neighbors. They can be a part of the celebration. That's probably what they think. They probably are just like, we're fine with it if they're fine with it.
Well, here's my thing. I don't think there are any people in those tents. Normally, when there's a lot going by, the people make an appearance. Oh, the people make an appearance. I didn't see any of that. So I'm wondering if they just left their places of work or where they live, and they go, there's going to be a lot of noise today. I'm going somewhere else.
No, they're in the marching. That's what I'm saying, right?
They're marching. They're in the floats.
Unzip the tent. They come out
just
and say,
go right out. Right. They just want, you know what it is? We're all wrong about this. These weren't our unsheltered neighbors. They were just people who wanted a good spot
there you go.
For the parade.
They were camping out for the parade.
That's what it is. That's right.
Just like Macy's.
Yeah. Just camping out for the parade. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from John in Redmond. John, what's up, man?
I consulted with the producer. I am PO'd at the Mariners for ever allowing their mascot to participate. But I'll tell you what, at my age of 77, it's a thin stream, but I'm directing and dedicating all of it to the Mariners.
Oh, John, you crack me up. You absolutely crack me up. I love the people that say they're not watching it like this is the end for them. And I'm kind of curious if they're sincere about that because of everything that happens with the season, about every year is a rebuilding year. I'm not so mad that the Moose was in the parade. The Moose is in the parade every year. It's this performative nonsense that you'd even think. Not one person said, can we lose the Hamas flag that's with us here? Can we get rid of that? John, thank you for cracking me up. Thank you for putting a smile on my face. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. By the way, I did love the press conference this morning. Kevin, I don't know if you saw this. Turd Ferguson, Gurmay Zahalai, and Katie Wilson come out to do a press conference today. I didn't have you bother clipping it because I'm going to have some fun with it tonight, and then we'll have some clips tomorrow. That's what we're going to do. So what happens? They come out for a press conference to be like, we're winning. We're winning. Look at the great job we're doing. Do you think you maybe needed a press conference? Because a whole bunch of people today are like, you didn't clear the parade route, and you didn't do anything for Pride. Oh, and my favorite moment. Do you know my favorite moment of this? Zach got back the numbers today about Sound Transit. You remember last week they were talking about how they had record numbers for the U.S. versus Australia game? So our question was, how many of them paid for it, and how do you track all these people? Well, according to Sound Transit, 66% of people paid for that light rail. 66%. If you have a business where only 66% of people are paying for your goods, that's a terrible business. This is what happens when you put theater kids who have no work experience whatsoever or community organizers in charge, and I say this as a theater kid and a community organizer, in charge of massive events. This is what happens. Or a massive transit agency. 2/3 of people. Oh, you have an entire third of people didn't pay for it? And here's something else. What are those numbers going to be like when everybody leaves town? So my guess is 2/3 of those people are tourists, because we know what those numbers are the rest of the year. I went on the light rail. Kevin, you weren't here. I took the light rail to the station because I said, I'm never getting a car where I want to go. I don't want to go back to the stadium afterward. I don't want to go back to the studio afterwards. So I took the light rail. Not a single cop on light rail. Not a single person in the yellow vest in light rail. Nothing. You know, the first time I saw somebody of authority when the train makes a stop to pick up somebody who's deadheading a ride on the light rail over in the Beacon Hill neighborhood. There's that one place where it stops in South Seattle, and always somebody gets on in the middle of nowhere who works for Sound Transit. That's the first time. The second time I saw somebody who was actually checking tickets at the monorail when I had to come to the station. Because guess what? They have turnstiles. They have fare gates. They have all that stuff you need to make a profit, because the monorail is privately owned and it's not government funded. Absolute stupidity. Speaking of stupidity, got some Supreme Court cases to take a look at when we come back. My friends, don't say, oh, this will get fixed at the Supreme Court. It's a bad bet, and we're going to tell you why. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So our remote broadcasts are a lot of fun, and we're going to be doing another one this week. So Tuesday night, as soon as the show is over, I am hopping the red eye to Washington, D.C. And as soon as I land in Washington, D.C., I'm going straight to the Capitol because Representative Dan Newhouse invited us to broadcast from the Capitol. It'll be great. We're going to be broadcasting from the Cannon Building, which is where the offices are, right next to the Capitol. We're going to be broadcasting from there on Wednesday. Thursday, got a little bit of fun planned. Thursday, I'm going to head over to the Great American State Fair. And the Great American State Fair, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, there's a fun little bit of drama going on, which is some states didn't send any representation whatsoever. So to fill the spot, the Trump administration or whoever's running the fair put up some pictures of the place and just put up the name of the state. So if you look at the Washington state, there's the Starbucks sign, the Amazon sign, Pike Place Market, some whales, that says Washington. and there's 2 rocking chairs and a small little end table that's like the thing you put your drink on while on vacation. That's it. I can't think of a more fitting analogy that you have an empty booth and the Starbucks logo. Perfect for Seattle. Perfect for what's happening. Because Governor Bob Ferguson didn't want to spend the money on that.
They didn't have any tents there, any citizens doing the Fenny Fold or anything like that?
Should I bring a tent? Should I bring a tent and we'll set it up there in? Oh my God! Should we set up a tent?
Did they have any syringes strewn about in there?
No, didn't see that. Didn't see that either. I'll check what's in the background. Maybe we need to go shopping at REI before heading on over. Oh my God! If I set up a tent, there is security to get into the fair. I don't think they're going to let me bring a tent in. What's that for?
Just go see if the city can give you one of their free ones to borrow for a little bit.
Oh my God, that would be great. Set up a tent there. Well, actually, yesterday when I was out there collecting signatures with Let's Go Washington, I had an idea. We have all these American flags and we have all these pocket-sized constitutions. Why don't I take those with me and I'll run the booth for a little while? I'll just hand them out to people at the fair. Representative Michael Baumgartner was sitting in one of the rocket chairs the other day, and he had a little stamp for Washington. These kids have these passports. They're walking around getting them stamped for all the states. And he's stamping kids' passports, and he goes, I'll give you a stamp if you say, let's go Seahawks. And the kids would say, let's go see. He got it on video. It's great. It's adorable. It really, really is. So I say, we just say, God bless America, and here's your little American flag. I don't have a stamp. Maybe I could find a stamp that has Washington.
I'm sure we can get you a stamp of some
sort. We'll find a stamp. Yeah,
sure.
Something that says KVI. Just stamp it right there on their passport representing Washington. So that's going to be Thursday, hopefully, assuming I don't get kicked out. That's going to be the plan. Now, speaking of Seahawks, by the way, we did have a caller call in and say, Ari, what's the deal with the Seahawks bids? Aren't they due today? Yes, they are due today, but we don't know who actually turned any in yet. If we hear about that, we will be sure to let everybody know. As soon as we hear about that, we'll be sure to let everybody know. But what you really want to know about is the Supreme Court decisions. So the Supreme Court decision regarding ballots did not go the way we hoped, but did get a little clarification in it. And let me tell you what it is. The Supreme Court handed down one of the biggest election law decisions we've seen in years today. And what they said was the court says that states can count ballots that arrive after Election Day. That's technically true, but they have to be postmarked by Election Day, which I guess is a small victory. So that means nothing here is really going to change in Washington. They're going to keep counting, and they're going to keep counting, and they're going to keep counting. So that's a loss for us. So the next time anybody says, hey, Ari, the Supreme Court will fix it. Really bad assumption that the Supreme Court will fix it. For all the claims that this is Trump's Supreme Court, you've got Justice Roberts, who was appointed by George W. Bush, and you've got Amy Coney Barrett, who was appointed by Donald Trump, who, more than I'd like, side with the other side. And Justice Alito wrote a scathing, absolutely scathing, dissenting opinion that this isn't election week. It's not election weekend. It's not election month. It's election day. Congress established one uniform day for federal elections. And yet you had the lefty judges. We knew that that's not a surprise. But then Roberts and Coney Barrett going the other way on it. Now, they didn't say it's good policy. Basically, they're just saying instead, well, here's what you get to do. And Congress they're saying Congress never required ballots to be received by Election Day. I don't understand the justification for this. I really, really don't. I've read the decision, which I consider myself an educated man. Yeah, I'm not a lawyer. Now I'm not a legal expert. I don't understand the rationale in it. I really just don't get it. However, I read Justice Samuel Alito's dissenting opinion, and he wrote, if ballots received after Election Day are added to the set of ballots that dictate the election's outcome, the electorate's choice does not occur on Election Day, and the federal Election Day statutes are violated. Exactly right. He's exactly right. He wrote, today's decision leaves open opportunities for voter fraud that may undermine Americans' faith in integrity of the country's elections. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. He added, when somebody votes by mail, it is harder for officials to verify the identity of the person requesting and completing the ballot. Yes! Why did Coney Barrett and Roberts take any of this into account? He added, mail voting also presents a greater opportunity for voter manipulation and more vulnerable chain of ballot custody and a diminished ability to detect improprieties in real time. Exactly right. He also wrote, allowing absentee ballots to pour in over the days and weeks after Election Day, by which point preliminary election returns are being publicly reported, creates greater opportunity for fraud and risks further undermining the public's confidence in election integrity. That all is everything that's happening in Washington. And what's more unique about this, he didn't cite some Republican thing. He went back to the Carter-Baker Commission from 2005. Jimmy Carter, not exactly a MAGA Republican. The commission concluded absentee voting was the largest source of potential fraud in American elections. He also cited Justice John Paul Stevens, a liberal justice, who wrote that absentee ballot fraud is real and could affect the outcome of a close election. Alito also wrote, it is undeniable that a prohibition on counting late arriving ballots would provide an additional hurdle for bad actors seeking to stuff ballot boxes when early election results suggest a tight race. He added, today's decision is inconsistent with the terms of Election Day statutes, contemporary election law principles, and 2 centuries of historical practice, and the case law on the question presented. He's exactly right. But Roberts and Coney Barrett voted the other way. And it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. He added, it creates a serious risk of further undermining public confidence in our elections and our system of self-government. I therefore fully respect the dissent. That's what he says. That's why he's doing the dissent. It makes no sense whatsoever. It really doesn't. This is something that should have been ruling the other way very, very clearly. And unfortunately, they went this way. Now, there is some good news out of the Supreme Court today. There is a specific case they are going to hear out of Washington. And it's the case regarding Senate Bill 5599. Senate Bill 5599 is the one which allows kids to come here seeking gender-affirming care, which means trans surgeries, come here seeking abortions, which means they can come here without their parents' permission. The state can pay for all of this. And then the parents have no recourse whatsoever. The court is going to hear this decision next term, which means they are going to rule on this in the summertime probably of next year, maybe earlier. This is huge. This is really, really huge. And this is an opportunity that we have to fix all of this, that the Supreme Court has to fix all of this. Given today's decision, I'm a little bit more concerned, about how this is going to shake out. Let me know what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. But I'll say this. I used to say we shouldn't do the SAVE Act because I was concerned about breaking the filibuster. Now I don't know how else you save the republic. Because right now, if you can keep doing this voting nonsense, where you can have ballots coming in, we've seen the results in Washington. I'm concerned that if we don't have the SAVE Act, this is never going to get fixed, and it's only going to get worse. Let me know what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Up next, my friends, Caitlin Clark still getting assaulted in the WNBA, so they keep assaulting their greatest asset. That's a bad move. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. While I was out yesterday at the Let's Go Washington signing event, we were having a discussion about the WNBA and Caitlin Clark getting the crap kicked out of her on a regular basis. Can you imagine if Michael Jordan comes to the NBA and every player assaults him as often as they possibly can because he's so much better than them? And it got me thinking, the only thing I can think like this, is Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson, first black player, lots of racism. A lot of people were threatened by him because he was black, because he was better, because whatever the case may be. And people did awful things to Jackie Robinson, horrible things to him. Go watch one of the 36 movies they've made about Jackie Robinson. You can watch the latest one with the Black Panther. It was mediocre. It's fine. It's got Harrison Ford as a grumpy old man, which is okay.
You're talking about Michael Jordan, but if you go back to that era of the NBA, it was very physical.
It was very physical.
Very physical.
Did anybody punch him in the throat?
No. Well, I don't know. Maybe.
I'll have to go back and check.
I'm sure in his career things have come to blows. I'm pretty certain.
But I'm saying the guy goes down on the ground. What happened with Caitlin Clark? She goes down on the ground, and this player from the Phoenix team,
yeah, I saw it,
checks her right in the throat with the fist.
Kind of also uses it, like presses it on her neck to get up as well, sort of move.
Yeah. Oh, gee, that wasn't intentional at all.
Yeah.
Give me a break. And then the Phoenix team posts a meme making fun of it. And then on top of it, the coach is like, well, I don't think my player should have been suspended for that. Give me a break here.
I'm just saying the NBA has gotten a little soft. Maybe the WNBA is like, hey, you know what? Let's take it back to where it used to be. We can't do any slam dunks in this thing, so let's have some. Let's look the other way when things get a little physical.
I don't think anybody's watching anyway. I don't think anybody turned into the next game to watch her get beat up.
True, but this stuff continues to make news whenever it happens, right? And it goes viral. So.
Oh yeah, every single time. But she's really the golden goose for the WNBA. I mean, when they come to play here, that stadium sells out. That stadium sells out when Caitlin Clark comes, and they don't sell out the rest of the year. I tell you that. The amount of threats this girl has seen, is it because she's white? Is it because she's straight? Is it because she's better? What's the reason why? This has reached a new level of absolute craziness. Absolute craziness. So, according to the Post-Millennial, the Phoenix Mercury posted a mockery of the cheap shot suffered by Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. Oh, Kevin, I don't know if you saw this. What's the gal's name? The tall blonde gal on Caitlin Clark's team who's always got her back? The one who that night was doing the pointing at the player who hit her. And somebody made a meme between Trump pointing at her and her pointing at Trump. It was back and forth. It was very, very funny. I was laughing about that one. So, Alyssa Thomas, who hit her in the neck, has now been suspended for just one game. One game. That's all you get suspended for. The official account of the Mercury posted a drawing of a Fever player on the floor in pain, saying, "Do want a piece of this?" Clark, who routinely trash talks on the court when provoked, had to sit out the second half of the game due to a back issue. Screenshots of the post circulated even after the Mercury deleted it. The Mercury won their game against the Fever. Charming. The post was also a play on the name Mercury player DeWanna Bonner, who played with the Fever for a stretch last season. Thomas was hit with a flagrant 2 penalty and was disciplined for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat area of Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. Thomas also received a flagrant 2 penalty. She'll have to sit out during the Mercury-Toronto Tempo game on Saturday, or she did sit out during that game. The incident occurred with about 7 minutes left in the second period. Clark hit the floor after contact with Mercury defender Lexi Held, who then, along with Bonner and Thomas, collapsed on top of Clark, aiming to get the ball. Thomas then pushed her fist into Clark's neck before getting off of her and stepping over her. Clark had 19 points and 8 assists, but the Mercury won 111-109. Kevin, I didn't know the game scores went that high in the WNBA. Oh, sorry. Was that inappropriate? So this quote here, Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White said, "We have a generational talent WNBA superstar who had 2 cheap shots against her that weren't even called. She called it absolutely unacceptable, absolutely egregious, and utterly disrespectful that referees did not issue a foul during the game." Outkick noted that while many professional sports teams across all leagues have adopted more confrontational style on social media, the now deleted post seems to cross a line that shouldn't be crossed. If the Mercury's post meant what it appeared to me in the official team account could be read as mocking Clark after she took contact, the league later to deem worthy of a flagrant foul 2 and suspension. Me personally, this isn't going to make me watch the WNBA. I was discussing with some guys yesterday. We all agree the women's hockey is great. Women's hockey is really, really good. Though WNBA, lower the baskets or shorten the court or something to make it better. It's just not that great basketball. It's really not. I'd rather watch the fist fight, but this isn't going to make me watch it. I don't think we should be doing any of that. Let me know what you think. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. Do you think it's racism? You think it's sexism? You think it's bigoted? Or you think it's just basketball? Maybe you think I'm completely off base on this. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 253 says, no hate in the WNBA. Yeah, sure, that's what's going on. Sure, that's what it is. When we come back, my friends, your chance to win $3,000 cold hard cash or take the trip. Plus, media is helping out Fergie with his income tax. We'll tell you about what I believe is a PDC violation when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, William Kirk from Washington State Gun Law will be joining us to discuss some of the Supreme Court decisions. And also, are we going back to war in Iran? But before we get to any of that, my friends, now is your chance to win $3,000 cold hard cash or get a trip, all courtesy of us right here at KVI. It's take the trip or keep the cash, my friends. So here's how this works. I'm going to give you a word, and you're going to text that word to the number I give you, and you'll be entered to win your choice of either $3,000 in cold hard cash or a trip to South Dakota. And you may think to yourself, what's in South Dakota? Well, I will tell you, my friends, because it's south, it's a little bit warmer than North Dakota by three whole little degrees right there. No, but you know what's there? Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is on my bucket list, and I have never been there before. So I am very, very envious of whoever wins this trip. So, my friends, today's word is plane, not an airplane, not that spelling. No, as in very plain, as in plain white bread, that kind of plain, as in the Great Plains, but it's singular. This is not a great word to try and do this with, right? Yeah, Kevin's got one here for me.
No, I was trying to look for Money, the song Money, because usually boom, boom, boom.
It's okay. That's fine. I'm having issues with the word here today, sir. It's plain, P-L-A-I-N, and I'm trying to use it in a sentence.
Sure.
And my brain is kind of just not finding anything off the top of my head here for it.
There's some great plains.
Yeah, see, that's the problem. Anyway, plain, P-L-A-I-N.
Yes.
This is not great for many reasons.
Yes.
P-L-A-I-N. Text the word plain, P-L-A-I-N, to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757 for your chance to win. Lots of people are weighing in on the Caitlin Clark thing. So this one here, Matt says, for the record, the Detroit Pistons beat the you-know-what out of Jordan. I was unaware of that. I will go back and double-check. I know Matt, and Matt probably is 100%. Kevin's like pointing and going, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I know, that era of the NBA was like pretty brutal, man. They went at it hard.
But was that a rookie thing, or was that a they always did that to him thing?
There were guys like Jordan was targeted. For sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's the best guy in the game.
Yeah.
So they tried to do all sorts of
I wonder
incidents.
If by the time I was old enough to really appreciate this stuff and watch Jordan, it was kind of like, he's the best. I mean, we're going to try and stop him, but we're done with those kind of shenanigans.
You got Drexler.
Mm-hmm.
You had what's his name? The big guy from the 76ers who also went on, the guy with the big mouth who's everyone loves.
Charles Barkley?
You had Barkley who was tough. You had Rodman was tough.
Sure.
Yeah, they knocked each other around, man.
Yeah. No, I know, but this is a little, I don't know. This just feels a little bit more, I'm not saying more targeted. Sorry, that's the wrong way to put it. This feels specifically targeted. And maybe it's because we expect ladies to be dainty. The women of the WNBA are not dainty.
I think that's a big part of it. Mm-hmm. And I think, people play race into this as well.
Yeah.
I think if it was if she was a person of color,
what would they be saying on air about that?
We probably wouldn't even be talking about
right.
It.
The people would be suspended for seasons and all that, right?
But no, I'm just saying. I'm saying if it is a weird sort of. I mean,
target the white gal. Yeah, it's not great. It's not great.
But she's also. I think it's more about her being a really good player, right?
Yeah.
I think if there was any person of any color who is as good a player as she is in that league, they would be targeted.
Yeah. Well,
that's just the way it is.
Now I'm going to have to go back tonight and watch some Jordan clips while I'm working because I like looking at the old NBA clips. My favorite one is when you see Michael Jordan beat all 5 Nets. You see him get past. It's the Nets and they sucked. But, I mean, haven't gotten much better. But you watch him beat all 5 of them. I mean, really, watching Jordan was a sight to behold. We had tickets to the Nets, and we were either sitting behind the basket or kind of a little bit behind courtside. And whenever we watched them, we would go to see the good teams, see the Bulls, see the Knicks, see everybody else. anytime Jordan went airborne, anytime, you would see the flash bulbs.
Oh, yeah.
And people brought their cameras. This wasn't cell phone day and age. People had to bring their cameras. You would see the flash bulbs go up in the entire place. And remember what kind of pictures you're getting back then on your little disposable or Fisher-Price or whatever garbage camera you had back then. Those pictures are what you're taking, and it's like, you're not really going to see much on that. You're going to see the other side of the stadium, maybe.
My favorite clip is, I think it was Reggie Miller. I think he was playing the Knicks because the Knicks hated the Pacers and Reggie Miller.
Yeah.
When he made was it 9 points or 10 points in like 10 seconds? It was like he made a three and then there's an inbound pass that he steals and he makes another three. There's this insane where he makes 10 points in 5 seconds.
Now I'm going to have to go look that. Reggie Miller? I'm going to have to go look that one up too.
That's my favorite. And then him making the choking.
Yeah.
Choking towards old Spike. What is his name? The director.
Spike Lee.
Spike Lee, who's
Spike
always.
Lee. Yeah, he's always at the Knicks games.
That was my favorite. My favorite.
So now I got to go look this up because when I watched The Last Dance with the Netflix movie about the Bulls, I go, oh, right, I remember that. Oh, I didn't know that because I was a little too young at the time. I really was. And it gave me a new appreciation for the stuff I watched then. This is all the kind of stuff I got to go look up because by the time I was old enough to appreciate the Knicks, well, they kind of sucked for a while there. They really, really did. Anywho, this one here. Okay, 425, I'm about to get mad at you. 425, here's why I'm about to get mad at you. Hi, Ari. I wish you and other influencers would have supported the Proof of Citizenship initiative by the Washington GOP. That's a huge piece of our systemic problem. Non-citizens getting registered to vote also risks their immigration pathway. 425, I spent 6 hours outside yesterday on a Sunday. I had to get up super early. I had to bring the KVI van with me, which is not my usual method of transportation. I had to take it home 3 days early because of all the broadcasting we were doing. Because guess what we were signing people up for while we were doing the Let's Go Washington initiatives? The new voter ID one, because it failed last time. And do you know what I did last time? You know how I met a guy named Scott Pressler, 425? Scott Pressler I met at one of the events collecting signatures to make sure there was voter ID. In fact, I went to 3 events with Scott Pressler to make sure that people would come out and sign this thing. At one of them, I left a little bit early from the show. I pre-recorded the good news segment. I tore out of here. I think I was driving 105 miles an hour to get to this thing on time. I didn't know I was the first speaker at this event with 1,000 people out in, it wasn't Renton, but it was somewhere out there. I was driving like a bat out of hell. I get to the parking lot. There's no parking because there's 1,000 people at this event. I literally put my charger, which I got from my friends over at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. I literally put my charger in front of the door, blocking the venue. If there had been a fire, there would have been Hoffman parked his car right there. I don't know if anybody's getting in and out of that thing. I parked my car right there. So to say you wish I had done more for the voter ID initiative, that's not fair, 425. That's really not fair. I worked my you-know-what off for that one. I think there are some other people who didn't put in the work that's needed and still aren't putting in the work that's needed. So I'll just say this is 425, that hurt a little bit. That hurt a little bit. Also, don't call me an influencer. I'm not one of them. I post on social media. I don't do that shenanigans, okay? I don't like that very much. Go back to the KVI studio line. Take a call from Bill in Linwood. Bill, what's going on?
Hey, you remember Wayne Gretzky?
Yes, I do. It's hockey. The great one. He lived near me, actually.
Better than everybody else. But he had 2 big guys on his team, Marty McSorley and Dave Semenko. And if anybody touched Wayne Gretzky, those 2 big guys were all over it, and they took care of it.
See, she's got that girl Cunningham, the big, tall, blonde girl, right? Is that her name? Something Cunningham? She's the one who does the pointing meme. That one. It cracks me up, the pointing meme. So she's the one who's her defender now. But I think, I got to say, actually, if the other team's roughing you up, then where's the Indiana, what are they called? The Fever? The Fever. The Indiana Fever. You're right. Where are her defenders? Where are her enforcers? And then you don't have that problem anymore, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree, Bill. You can learn a lot from.
Thanks.
Yeah, you can learn a lot from the NHL. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? Give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. 12th man for life, who was out there yesterday gathering signatures with us. This man gave up his Sundays. He collected around 500 signatures himself, by himself, with no help whatsoever. He said, here, 425, this one's for you. Proof of citizenship. Just like we were talking about yesterday. Yes, just like we were talking about yesterday while we were out there collecting the signatures for it. Switching gears to repealing the income tax, the Democrats' income tax, it is clear that the mainstream media is all in on keeping this tax. Somebody asked me yesterday at the event, they said, Ari, what can we do about this? I said, well, you have to understand, the lamestream media wants that money from the Washington state legislature. So they're going to do anything that goes along with it, pushing their entire agenda because they want that money to save their dying outlets. So the first article I saw filled with lies was from Jerry Cornfield in the Washington State Standard. Jerry Cornfield, I have a low opinion of because he's one of the people suing to try and stop me from having a press pass. Jerry, you write some very detailed, interesting articles for the Washington State Standard. Maybe if you did a little bit more to promote them, your outlet wouldn't be in trouble and you wouldn't need to beg for tax money. Maybe. Maybe if you're a little better at the social media game. Instead of being jealous of me and Brandy Cruz and Jonathan Cho, maybe do a little bit better at your job. Because this article is, I really want to cuss on the air, but I can't cuss on the air because I don't have a button right here. Kevin's got the button. He doesn't want to deal with that for me. Kevin doesn't want to deal with that for me. So, here's the headline of Jerry Cornfield's article. Initiative to repeal Washington income tax would axe revenue and keep added costs. Stop. Full stop. Nothing about that headline is true. Not one GD word. Not one. See, look at that. I'm being better about this now. Not one is better about this. Not one is true.
You can get creative, like, was it listener John?
Yeah, listener John. I was talking about his stream. His
yes.
stream. Don't cross the streams. Yeah, he was talking about his stream, right? So there you go. I got a GD out of it, okay? Here we go. First of all, if this thing is going to fix our budget, why does it only go into effect 3 years from now? Why try cutting some funding in the meantime? Yeah, Turd Ferguson and everybody claiming, Danny Heck, Lieutenant Governor of Washington, claiming they don't have the money for a booth at the Great American State Fair. You know what they do have the money for? $5 million they've spent on trans surgeries for convicted felons. Don't tell me you don't have the money. Spare me that nonsense. So, you're going to say it's going to blow a hole in the budget? You already have a hole in the budget. You already have a massive hole in the budget. What's happening is because the people who implemented the tax get to write the language about the tax, they get to write what's on there. They're saying, oh, the children, we want the money for the children and the diapers and the babies and the baby food. And Brian Haywood and Ari Hoffman and Let's Go Washington are going to take away all our money. No. They attached all this to it so that they could claim that. Jerry Cornfield is either dumber than I thought or is being intentionally obfuscating the information because he's on the side of the Democrats. Given the fact that he's in the process of trying to stop me from having a press pass, we can guess which one it is. I don't need to get into the rest of this garbage article because when the headline and the excerpt are both complete BS, we know where you're coming from, Jerry. Jerry, who shows up in court to watch a judge say no to the press passes for me, Brandy, and John. That Jerry Cornfield. And he wasn't there covering it. Oh, right. He's one of the people funding that lawsuit, Jerry. Who's the other ones here? Jim Brunner. Jim Brunner for the Seattle Times. Now, we knew he was a shill for this. It's too bad. He seemed like such a nice guy when I met him out at the RNC. But I'm like, I don't like any of his writing. He's being a little too friendly. Yeah, something's wrong with that guy. Good thing I didn't ignore my gut on that occasion. I just took a nice picture, and that was that. But here's their headline. An initiative repealing Washington's new millionaire tax could also jeopardize other state taxes. Okay, guys, this is where we're at. They are literally just taking the Democrats' talking points. Our friend Elon over on X, Engele, over there on X. You should follow his account. He does great stuff with this. He says, the Seattle Times published a piece today by Jim Brunner treating a Pacifica Law Group legal memo as neutral expert analysis of I-645's risks. Pacifica is not a neutral party. Brunner didn't disclose that. The article's entire analytical spine is an 8-page memo written by attorneys with the Pacifica Law Group, warning that I-645 could kill the capital gains tax and $5.4 billion in payroll taxes. Brunner quotes it as expert legal opinion. He names no conflicts. He discloses nothing about who Pacifica is. And I know some of you right now are screaming at your radio because you know who Pacifica is. Pacifica Law Group is the firm that litigated Quinn versus State, the capital gains tax defense. They didn't just write a memo about the capital gains tax. They built the legal architecture that made it survive. They have a direct institutional stake in it continuing to survive. Oh, and who has ties to the Pacifica Legal Group? And who keeps appointing their people to different positions in our government? Bob Ferguson. Elon writes, that's not a peripheral fact. That's the most relevant fact in the entire story. A law firm is warning that a ballot initiative will kill a tax they got paid to defend. And the Times presented this as disinterested legal analysis. Washington Attorney General Nick Brown has Pacifica Law Group income disclosed on his F-1 financial disclosure forms for both 2024 and 2025. No recusal statement is on file. The same AG's office is also quoted in Brunner's article. Deputy S.G. Peter Gonick filed a court brief in a related ballot title dispute acknowledging I-645 scope is uncertain. So the article cites Pacifica and the Attorney General's office as two independent voices. They are not independent. Public records show approximately $9.3 million in authorized contract ceilings between the Attorney General's office and Pacifica Law Group across 2021 through 2024. Wait a minute. Nick Brown wasn't in office back then. Who was? Bob Ferguson. So this is a company that does, this is a law firm that does business for Bob Ferguson that is trying to keep the business with the Attorney General's office. Both Bob Ferguson and Nick Brown want to keep the income tax. They are not an unbiased source. They are not a neutral party. They are as biased as it gets. And the Seattle Times printed it anyway. The Seattle Times is not objective journalism. Like the Washington State Standard, the Seattle Times is paying for the lawsuit to stop me, Brandy Cruz, and Jonathan Cho from having press passes. Let's not forget the extra level the Seattle Times went to have threats against Brandy Cruz by trying to loop her in, the Seattle Times and Jim Brunner put that article out, trying to loop her in with somebody she fundamentally disagrees with on a whole bunch of levels, trying to get her targeted by Trans Tifa. This is literally what they are doing. This is the game that is being played. So I'm going to take this opportunity to show you all the stuff that's being thrown at Let's Go Washington and Brian Haywood and us. You got to get those signatures in, my friends. This is how desperate they are to keep the income tax on you. And it will hit you next. Yesterday, while we were collecting the signatures, you know what kept happening? People kept showing up and going, I'm not a millionaire, but I'm doing this because I know it's eventually going to hit me. And I keep telling my friends that. A lot of them aren't even aware that there's even this thing under consideration right now. That's what people kept saying when they would show up yesterday. They are desperate to keep this tax in place, and they will do anything they can. No matter if it's legal, no matter if it's unethical, they don't care. They will do whatever they can to keep this thing in place, so it's up to you to stop it. So you got to go to letsgowashington.com right now. It is too late to request signature sheets. I mean, they might still send them to you, but you're not going to have enough time with the mail. What you got to do is you got to find a signing location while any are left. You got to head out to those. They're at Let's Go Washington's website, or you got to turn in the ballot sheets you have. At this point, I would find a place where you can turn them in. You just have a couple days. They need these things before July 1st. They need them really by tomorrow. So find a location you can turn them in. There are offices you can turn them in. Turn them in ASAP. Go to letsgowashington.com and turn them in. You got to do that, and you got to do it right now. So that way we have as many signatures as we need to get the repeal of the income tax on the ballot, my friends. Got to make sure that happens as soon as possible. got some texts here when I couldn't think of a phrase earlier. So if you know, you know. Little bonus right now for those of you who, if you know, you know, and I couldn't think of a phrase. Rebecca texted in, and I can't believe I didn't even think about this one. Rebecca says, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. How did I not think about that one? This one here, this isn't nice, Eben. Ari, your explanation is just plain. Okay. You're all cut off today. You are all cut off. No more of that. I love you guys. I really, really do. Switching gears over here for a second, there was a great conversation between Bill Maher and J.D. Vance. And I know that I've been really, really harsh on J.D. Vance recently, but it's worth calling attention to when people disagree on issues and can have a good conversation. This is what they look like. You know, one of the best things about yesterday with Let's Go Washington, with the event we were at, all the people who came out, not all of them agreed with me. There's this very nice lady who said, Ari, I feel politically homeless. She goes, I believe in this, I believe in this, I believe in this. And the Democrat Party just doesn't represent me anymore at all. And she was listing all the reasons. We had a lovely, lovely conversation. Unfortunately, it's not happening in politics enough. So Vice President J.D. Vance was on Bill Maher's show. This is one of my favorite moments. Give a listen.
Stuff like that is that nothing ever lands in the middle, which is what I'm always trying to get people to do.
I thought you were crazy liberal.
But you don't watch the show. You should watch the show.
I actually do watch the show. I laughed my ass off backstage. That was a good monologue. Even though you were making fun of me, I kind of liked it.
Yeah. It was fair. Yeah. I know someone in your administration who watches the show. Because I always hear about it. Okay.
You're right. The second lady, she's a big fan. Second lady's a big fan of Bill Maher.
But
I did love that moment. I absolutely love that moment. People think it's insulting when they do impressions of me. I think it's hysterical when they're good. When they're good, I think they're pretty funny. Yes, I've heard a few of you. They are pretty entertaining. So, anywho, this was a good moment. But where it gets a little bit more is where Bill Maher is saying that the Democrat Party has left him, where he says his vote is in play for the next election. And if Bill Maher is saying that, it's not so much that Bill Maher as a celebrity, it carries a lot of weight like that. I'm sure there's some people who look up to that. But we found that celebrity endorsements don't really help. But this is a guy who's a classic liberal. How many other people are thinking the exact same thing?
like, if this is where the Democratic Party is going, where this democratic socialist, this obsession with Israel, with the Jew hating, with they don't believe in capitalism, no prisons. If this is where they're going, my vote is in play.
Okay.
And
I like to hear that.
It actually always has been. Every year, I don't make my decision by who was an R or a D. I actually always came to the conclusion that the Democrat was probably better.
Sure.
And voted for them.
Okay.
And Trump can't run again, and he'd be a little too exciting for me anyway. So it's either going to be you or Rubio.
And that's what a lot of people are thinking. If this is the Democrat Party, we are out of here. We are out of here. Have you seen the craziness? The people they've been electing coast to coast in these primaries? Every day more insanity comes out on these people. If it's not the anti-Semitism, it's the anti-Americanism. If it's not the anti-Americanism, it's the anti-capitalism. If it's not the anti-capitalism, it's the anti-police. If it's not the anti-police, it's the anti-military. These are lunatics. Absolute lunatics who want the end of America. The DSA. The DSA is literally admitting they want the end of America. They're saying they want communism. They're saying they want Marxism. This isn't socialism like the media would have you believe. That's why they made the name the Democratic Socialists of America, because Democratic Communist of America not only contradicts itself, communism doesn't track that well. It really, really doesn't. So J.D. Vance and Bill Maher had a little fun conversation about the war in Iran. Because you know that leftist claim that, no, the U.S. didn't destroy anything. J.D. Vance, superb job of shutting down Bill Maher on this one.
Like, if this is where the Democratic Party is going, where this democratic socialist, this obsession with Israel, with the Jew hating, with they don't believe in capitalism, no prison.
Nope, I think that's the wrong clip. We'll come back to that one for a second. But literally shut him down on the Iran discussion. But that wasn't the only thing. They were talking about the border also.
Here's what sticks in their craw.
Okay.
The number one issue, immigration. Not immigration. We like it that you closed the border. That
Thank
needed
you.
to be done. the people who are here, the way you treated, I'm talking about your administration.
Okay.
You weren't out there yourself, but ICE, all that shit, too rough, too mean, too unnecessary. I think you go, I'm not telling you what to do, okay? I'm just giving you some advice as a friend.
Okay.
And I am. And I'm not saying, I'm not asking you to apologize if I don't like when people do that. I'm just saying you go a long way toward getting people who are just completely shut the door to you and your ministry if you would just own that you guys went too far. You went too far, and you should own it like you did childless cat ladies.
Well, okay. So here's the basic problem with that bill is you cannot do any deportations without law enforcement, and you can't do a law enforcement operation like that without having some situations that don't look good when they're recorded like that. I mean, let me give you like just one obvious example. Let's just set aside the immigration element of this, okay? If you take a guy who's committed murder and you go in and arrest that guy, sometimes that person's gonna resist arrest. Sometimes if you take a video of it and it's out of context and you don't appreciate why that person is being arrested in the first place, it looks pretty icky if you take that out of context video clip. And what I worry about is when people say you can't ever do immigration enforcement if it produces a bad video clip, what they're really saying is you can't ever actually do immigration enforcement. We had 12 million people come into the country, into the interior over the last 4 years, or I should say from 2021 to 2025. And we were elected with a mandate to get some of those people out of the United States of America. You can't do that easily. Law enforcement deporting people is never an easy process. So I appreciate your argument that we've gone too far, but we couldn't do nothing. And I don't think there was an easy way to do this.
Of course.
So he's 100% right. Watching cops is fun because you want to see somebody get the crap kicked out of them. And you want to see them on drugs and you want to see all that craziness. But law enforcement, it's not sexy, the job. It's dangerous. And you have to fight criminals. When war started changing is when we had embedded reporters. Can you imagine if we had embedded reporters in World War II, what they would have seen? We didn't have them until Vietnam. That's why it's so hard to win a war these days, because the average American doesn't realize what they're looking at, and they think it's all awful, and we got to shut it down. And guess what? War is awful. War is awful, but sometimes it's necessary, like what's happening in Iran. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss, including William Kirk from Washington. Gun law will be joining us to go through some of these Supreme Court decisions and what it means for your Second Amendment protections. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My friends, it is Supreme Court decision season, and there are a ton of them out there, but there are a bunch that affect your Second Amendment rights. Joining us now to break them all down is our friend William Kirk from Washington Gun Law. Welcome back to the show, buddy.
Ari, thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure.
Such a pleasure to have you as always. So I consider myself a novice when it comes to the gun stuff. You're the expert on it. Is this good news, bad news for the Second Amendment? Because there were a couple decisions that came out last week.
Yeah, I think they're both really good news. I think one in particular is good news for folks here in Washington State. That's the matter of United States versus Hamani, which was a challenge to 18 United States Code Section 922G3, which prohibits those who use illegal controlled substances from possessing a firearm. And what that the disproportionate effect it has in states like Washington is we are a legalized cannabis state. Even though the state doesn't have a problem with it, the federal government still does. And so theoretically, there were a lot of people who could be using cannabis recreationally or medicinally in this state that under federal law prior to this holding would have been disqualified from possessing a firearm. That appears to be no longer the case. I don't think it applies to people who are recreationally using other types of drugs, but I think to cannabis users, I think this is opens the door for their access to the Second Amendment to be much more consistent with what our founding fathers actually envisioned when it came to intoxicating substances.
Now, I did find it entertaining that Hunter Biden was running around saying, oh, look, this exonerates me. And like, no, dude. Okay,
So,
no.
Yeah, though here's the thing that Hunter Biden didn't, and everyone who's supporting him doesn't want to say. Hunter Biden was not convicted of being a druggie in possession of a firearm. Hunter Biden was convicted of lying on a federal background check for him.
Right. And
Slightly
also,
different.
he also threw a gun in his brother's wife, who he was sleeping with at the time, threw a gun in a garbage can, and then the Secret Service came in to remove all the documents and records of that. So let's be clear about this. Hunter Biden, you are still a scumbucket person. Okay, enough about Hunter Biden. But back to this for a second. Something I'm a little concerned about, and I'm playing devil's advocate for a minute here. I mean, I'm all for Second Amendment rights. I want everybody to have Second Amendment rights. But the way they're refining the marijuana in Washington State, we're talking about something that has very, very addictive properties these days and very, very potent properties. So how do you decide what is somebody who's recreational versus somebody who's not? I mean, when I have my gun on me and I go somewhere and I know I'm going to be drinking, I unload it, I lock it, I store it. That's the responsible thing to do. What about somebody in this situation? Does that come into play?
Why couldn't the firearm be treated the same way with cannabis users as it is with alcohol users?
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly my point. Is that what this really does in this place?
Yeah, that's really what it does. There is state law, and candidly, even if there wasn't, since I preach lawful and responsible gun ownership, that you should not be in possession of a firearm if you're under the influence of any substance. Period. In Washington State, it's codified in RCW 9.41.098. If you go back and you take a look at our founding fathers and how they dealt with intoxication, which is not a modern societal issue, by the way. We go way back into our history. We've had this issue. The way this country has always dealt with it is you will not be in possession of a firearm while you are under the influence. But because you become under the influence of a substance on a Friday evening during happy hour, why does that disarm you the other 6 days of the week? And there was no historical tradition of doing that. And what the Supreme Court did is we are going to use the same historical analysis as it relates to the facts of this case. And the facts of that case, Hamani, is that he was an occasional user of cannabis.
Right.
So again, I don't think this applies to the meth heads and the junkies we see running around or kind of zombie-like around in the streets of Seattle. It does not apply to them. It applies to recreational, occasional cannabis users and those that are using also for medicinal purposes.
Right. So treat it like a car is basically right. And there's no constitutional amendment to be able to drive a car. So this is a higher level of that. Tell us about the other.
Well, and it's just lawful and responsible gun ownership, right? You got to use your head. And
Right.
if you're under the influence of something, you are in no condition to be in possession of a firearm. It's just that simple.
Yeah, exactly right. Tell us about the other decision.
Yeah, the other decision was a case that we thought was going to go our way. We didn't think the ruling would be very broad. It's a matter of Wolford v. Lopez. It's a challenge to a goofy little law that's been labeled the vampire law in Hawaii, where the state of Hawaii went in and basically said every piece of private property in this state, which is held open to the public, so your grocery stores, your gyms, your everything, those are all gun-free zones unless the owner affirmatively put signage up there saying, "Aloha, all guns welcome," or something like that. And the Supreme Court has struck that law down on Second Amendment grounds, private property owners still have the absolute right to prohibit firearms on their property. They have property rights. They can do that. And gun owners can choose whether or not they want to do business on that property or not. That's their choice as consumers. But what was most interesting about the case is there was a bunch of other broader language by Justice Alito as it relates to the Bruin test and some of the other issues that lower courts are struggling with as it relates to magazine bans and assault weapon bans and some of these other more restrictive gun laws. And so now we are concerned that we're going to have 5 platform ban cases, including the Gators Guns case out of the state of Washington, get remanded back down to their lower courts. We think that may happen tomorrow now for a do-over on all of those cases. And that's better than a denial of those petitions. But for people who are hoping for a quick constitutional resolution on magazine bans and assault weapon bans, I don't believe that's coming right now.
Well, as we learned on many other decisions today, you can't rely on the Supreme Court. I know a lot of people go, oh, of course the Supreme Court's going to say that you can only vote on Election Day. And I said, guys, that is not a good bet to make. You know, this is the kind of thing we have with this. All right.
And if you take a look at some of the partnerships that you're seeing between the dissenting and concurring opinions, you're seeing it's not 6-3 all the time. Okay. You got liberal justices joining conservative justices on all sorts of issues. So that whole, this is a radical right wing, court is not playing out when you look at the opinions.
Yep.
It's just not.
I completely agree. Are there any other decisions that are pending before the court that we're waiting on right now?
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge case. We got Trump v. Barbara, which is the birthright citizenship case.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably going to be out tomorrow. Huge. We got 2 cases that deal with transgender bans in both high school and collegiate athletics. One's called Hecox v. Little. The other one's called West Virginia versus BPJ. That will be out tomorrow as well. If the Supreme Court follows their line of reasoning that we saw in cases such as, I think it was Mahmoud v. Taylor and United States versus Scrimetti, there was a couple of cases there where this Supreme Court, usually by a 6-3 majority, has shown a willingness to place a lot of limitations on the transgender ideology and the injection of things or the removal of parental rights. And then the biggest news already to come out today is the constitutional challenge to Washington's Senate Bill 5599, which is the bill that allows children who run away from homes to then receive gender affirming care from the state without the parental consent here in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
That case was accepted by the United States Supreme Court today, and that will be argued this fall.
Yeah, that's going to be huge, which means we'll probably see a decision on that next summer, right? That's not something we're going to see this year.
Yeah, sometime early 2027. It's going to depend on when the oral argument is set for it. But that case is perhaps the most important parental right case in the history of the United States. That case is huge. It hasn't gotten a lot of attention. I think it's going to capture a lot of attention around the country when people start reading the petition and go, they do what out in Washington? Are you serious? Because it'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It really will.
Also, I see a lot of other states considering similar laws, and it would be good if the Supreme Court says, yeah, not so fast, you crazy lunatics.
Correct.
In fact, I actually would not be surprised if a couple of the liberal justices went along with the conservative justices on that case, because in the past, they have actually gone with them from time to time. William Kirk from Washington Gun Law, do appreciate your time and your expertise on all of this. Thank you so much for joining us today, my friend. Always a pleasure. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to subscribe to our podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. In fact, even if you don't listen to podcasts, give us a subscribe. Makes our numbers look better. We like that kind of stuff. Also, rate it and share it so your friends know how awesome the show is. Matt is always making trouble. Shouldn't initiative sheets count as long as they are postmarked by the due date, regardless of when they get to Let's Go Washington? Yes, Matt. I like that. In fact, I'm actually going to suggest that to our friends over at Let's Go Washington, that maybe for the ones that do come in late, they should bring them in and say, hey, guys, you should really count these. You should really count these because it's when they were postmarked. See the postmark date on them? It's when they were postmarked. These should count just like the ballots. Oh, that's excellent. Actually, Matt, I know you're kind of joking around a little bit, but I actually think I'm going to make a thing about this. I think I'll do a little digging. See what we get. I think I'm going to reach out to the Secretary of State's office for comment. Oh, that's glorious, Matt. Well done. Well done. You know, it's not well done, this news. Well, actually, the news itself is well done. The report is bad news for Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. So I know we all do crazy things in college. I know we all do. College is, everybody experiments in college, right? No, I did not really. So this new report from the New York Post is absolutely damning about Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. She's in the fight of her political life. The last 2 times she ran against Joe Kent, and I got to say, like, the first time we were on Team Joe Kent, and the second time we kind of done with that. And we're like, why are we doing this again when the dude's going to lose again? Same race, same thing. But now she's against our friend John Braun, and we're backing John Braun in this race. We want John Braun to win, the current state senator and the Senate Majority Leader there in the Washington State Senate. We want him to win. We want him to be in Congress. But Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, all this stuff keeps coming out now. See, maybe if Joe Kent had focused more on this kind of stuff rather than the stuff he was focused on, then maybe he would have won some elections. So, according to the New York Post, the Southwest Washington Democrat who is running for re-election helped fund I forgot to do my disclaimer. If you have kids in the car, you got to earmuff it for a few minutes here, okay? You got to earmuff the kids for a second. Helped fund a campus fetish ball, promoted student events tied to the school's drug culture, and was later accused by former acquaintances of bizarre behavior, ranging from bartering spoiled food for rent to participating in the decapitation of a chicken during an urban farming experiment. Was this like E.T., we got to come in and save the frogs, or is this way worse than that? The allegations, according to the New York Post, are that Gluesenkamp-Perez served as a student senator and chaired Reed College's Finance Committee in 2012. During that time, the student government approved $4,000 in funding for a campus latex fetish ball, an event organized by the school's fetish club. Kind of want to know why the school money needs to go to the school's fetish club. I mean, it's college. Do you really need college money going to that? Do you really need to be spending that? The club reportedly offered workshops on bondage techniques and other fetish-related activities, while Gluesenkamp-Perez also supported funding for Reed's annual Ren Fair celebration, a campus tradition that includes naked runs by body-painted students. I mean, that's college, but does the campus funding need to go to that? The newspaper also reported that the student government promoted an LSD giveaway. Whoa. All right, Kevin, I'm doing life wrong. I should have gone to Reed College. Sounds like a lot more fun than where I went to school, that's for sure. And Nitrogen Day. And it wasn't for Fast and Furious releases. Events tied to Reed College's longstanding reputation for an open drug culture. Reed College had previously drawn national attention for student-written drug guides discussing substances, including LSD, psilocybin, I don't even know how to pronounce that, cocaine. You can tell how well-versed I am in drug culture. Ketamine, nitrous oxide, and which are commonly known as whippets.
Was that psilocybin? Is that what you were?
Thank you.
Yeah,
psilocybin. Yeah. Thank you. I don't even know what that is. Man, I'm such a square.
I only do that on Fridays.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Ken.
Or days that end in Y.
There you go. Fantastical. Former roommate Isaac Eager, he was very eager to tell his story, you might say, to the papers, alleged during an episode of the Coexist Inc. podcast that Gluesenkamp-Perez lived in housing he provided following a breakup, but repeatedly failed to pay the rent. Eager recalled that when he requested payment, she once attempted to compensate him with spoiled produce. He said the kind of avocado where you can't even turn it into guacamole or anything. And she's like, here's rent. And he said, no, absolutely not. Said she would literally never pay the rent. Oh, sounds like a socialist. Eager also claimed that Gluesenkamp-Perez was an avid dumpster diver Well, who isn't in college? Who isn't in college? I mean, let's be real about that. Where'd a lot of your furniture come from? I remember this time. Okay, I'm not proud of this. I remember this time the local deli got rid of their lunch counter, and me and my idiot friends decided we can make that into a bar in our apartment. So we get a bunch of guys and we carry the thing back, except it's an L shape, right? So it's not going to go straight in. You got to negotiate corners and stuff, and it got wedged outside our apartment door, stuck there. So landlord sees it. Landlord freaks out because now he's got a fire hazard, and this is New York where they don't play games with things like that because he's going to be a slumlord. So I had to get a bunch of my idiot friends again to take the thing outside and leave it on a corner and hope nobody saw us for littering because it's New York, and you actually occasionally, back then, got cited for these things. These were in Giuliani days where you got cited for such things.
I'm telling you, the amount of creativeness that comes with a bar that you're trying to put in a college room,
yes,
apartment, dorm,
yes,
whatever.
Yes,
I've seen some very creative, quote unquote, bars.
Yes, this would have at least looked the part. We would have had to paint it, and you know what they look like when you paint them. They just look awful.
All I can think of is like the thing in a Subway or in a Jersey Mike's where you'd have like a sneeze guard and all that stuff, and like in the little areas where you can have the cooling meats and whatnot.
It wasn't like that.
Wasn't that?
So it was the surface, which I guess must have been a counter, something. But yeah, we know where that sucker came out of, and probably not hygienic in any way, shape, or form. It's probably a reason they were throwing that sucker out, but we thought it was cool to take it. Oh, another time. This wasn't even in college. My brother-in-law calls me. He says the JCC is throwing out all their stuff. I said, what do you mean? He goes, the one on Mercer Island. They're throwing out all their gym equipment. And I go, okay. And he goes, let's go get it. And I go, dude, I don't need the gym equipment. He goes, you need the gym equipment. And I go, no, I don't. He goes, no, you really do. I go, you want the gym equipment, right? That's what's happening. And this is back when I was in better shape. He goes, come on, we'll take the truck. We'll go out to the JCC and we'll see what they have. They threw out everything, literally everything. And for a normal person, it's like normal stuff. So why wouldn't you take it?
Are we talking like Nautilus type stuff? What are we talking about here? Benches?
It was benches. It was weights. It was everything. They must have gotten new gym equipment. So him and I loaded up the truck, and that thing was dragging heavy. But we loaded up with a whole bunch of gym equipment for him, not for me, clearly. Look at me. I don't really use the gym equipment, though I should more often. Hey, if some gym wants to sponsor me, that'll get me out to the gym more often. But what happens is, I mean, people do the dumpster diving. That's not the thing that bothers me. Here's what bothers me. She apparently once decapitated a chicken while roommates frantically searched online for a humane way to slaughter the animal during an urban farming experiment. Somebody's going to have to explain to me the educational value of the decapitation of the chicken. That's another conversation. Up next, final hour free-for-all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, plus latest insanity with the pride craziness here in Washington. Give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the show's final hour free-for-all, your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, give us a call or a text on the KVI studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, my friends, why were people protesting outside the World Cup game? Some of their answers may surprise you, but speaking of the World Cup game, when we were down there broadcasting the other day, it was incredible to me how few people showed up from the Pride movement. Seemed to be much ado about nothing. Most of the actual altercations between protesters came from the anti-regime Iranians going head-to-head with the pro-regime Iranians, and it was the pro-regime Iranians who came looking for a fight. The anti-regime protesters were peaceful. They kept marching around the stadium multiple times. In fact, I posted some video on my social media, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Hofffather over on X. You can see it right there. You can check it out, where they're marching around the stadium protesting against the regime. In fact, I saw more pride flags in that group advocating for LGBT rights in Iran than I saw anywhere else in the stadium. It was nice that a few of them were around. So the left basically didn't show up for this. I didn't see any pre-game ceremonies, nothing, and they never miss an opportunity with the Pride Parade. You know that. Never miss an opportunity at all. And I think it's because they were afraid of the jihadi contingent that was in town, like the Iranian types. You know, the captain of the Iranian squad, after they tied, and that knocked out Iran because they didn't have enough points to go on. By the way, I love that Egypt and Iran tied. This very nice guy from Egypt, he comes over to the table when we're broadcasting down there. And Kevin, I don't know if I told you this very nice guy and his friends, they come walking over the table. He goes, "So who you rooting for?" And I go, And he goes, "Come on, you gotta vote for Egypt. You gotta root for Egypt." And I go, "I don't know, man." He goes, "Well, you're Jewish, right? And you hate Iran." I go, "Yeah, but that doesn't mean I like you guys, not you guys, but your team that much. That doesn't mean I like the country that much, you know? It doesn't mean that. So what are we talking about here, right?" It was kind of entertaining. Anywho, so regarding this whole thing, did get to meet some interesting people while we were down there. Did get to talk to some interesting people while we were down there. And I got to tell you, is that when you ask them why they're down there protesting, fascinating the answers you get. So these are anti-regime protesters who were down there, and they were there very, very early with their anti-regime flags. And I spoke to them, and I asked them why they were down there. Give a listen. All right, I'm standing out here in front of Seattle Stadium, which is normally called Lumen Field, and I'm here with a bunch of my friends who are protesting the Iranian regime, right? What's your name, sir?
Mustafa.
Mustafa, okay, and?
Moji.
Mustafa and Moji. So, what brought you guys out here today?
We are here because we are against the government of Iran, and this is our real flag. We want to show the people this is our real flag. And our leader is the Reza Pahlavi. And this is not our team. This is the regime of the Jumhuri Islami's regime. Mullahs. This is not ours. And our real team is in a jail. They're going to execute them. And we are here to help them to come out, and we don't want that regime anymore. We are the people of Iran.
They support terrorists. They support IRGC.
Help me understand the difference between the two flags. There's one that has this crest shape on it, and there's one with the lion on it, right?
This is our real flag.
Okay. It's an old flag, real flag, yes.
This is the real flag from years ago. And this is the flag of Iran. That one is not our real flag. They took the lion out and they put Allah there.
So my name is Ari, which in Hebrew means lion. So I'll remember it with the good thing is the lion in the middle of it, right?
Yeah.
So I saw that people are replacing the flags at Pike Place Market, and they're repainting the ones on the columns. How do you guys feel about that?
We feel great.
Yeah.
We feel great because we are protest. We are trying to show the people of the world this is our real flag. And because of that, we go painted. They changed the flag to the lion.
How do you feel about what's going on right now? For example, there's a ceasefire, but as of 5 minutes ago, I don't know if you heard, because President Trump said that Iran violated the ceasefire, the U.S. just bombed Iran. How do you feel about that?
You know, as long as the President Trump helped the people of the Iran, not the government, and don't shake the killer, we're going to support President Trump.
So,
but if he's going to shake the people of the government of Iran, those are killer. They killed over 40,000 young people in 2 days in Iran. And they raped the young people, they raped the young girls. This is not real Iranian people.
do you still have family over there?
Yes, we have.
Okay, how many? Like a lot of people?
Lots of people,
Lots
yes.
of people. How'd you get here?
Actually, I am Baha'i, and I was in a jail for some times in Iran, and with my family. That time I was young, and then after I came out from the jail with my whole family, we were in jail. We escaped the country. We went to the Turkey 38 years ago, and then we came here. And we changed 3 countries till we come here as a religion refugee.
Okay. That's the interview the activists don't want you to hear. You know why? She's talking about how her family was politically persecuted, talking about how her family was religiously persecuted, how they're pro-American, and how they're anti-regime, and they support President Trump. Now, their line with President Trump, their line is interesting because what they say with President Trump, they don't want him shaking. What do they mean by that? They don't want him shaking the hands of their oppressors. They don't want deals with the oppressors. In fact, these people were very anti the MOU and very anti the deal and very excited when they heard that the U.S. was bombing Iran again because Iran had tried to attack a ship in the Hormuz Strait. The left doesn't want you to hear that. They really, really, really don't want you to hear this last part of that interview. To free the people of Iran. Years ago, this never would have even been, something you couldn't even think about. How do you feel about that?
We feel great because Israel is our friend. When Shah was there, we never had the problem with anybody. We all together. The Middle East was together. We support each other because Shah was the king of the Middle East. But after Shah is gone, we will get separate, but we are happy the Israel is helping us. God bless Israel.
Well, I got to say, love you guys. Love what you're doing. All right, so great to see you guys out here.
God bless America.
God bless America. Thank you so much for being here today.
And thank you, and Javid Shah, King Reza Pahlavi.
Okay, now there's a lot to unpack in there for a second. And this is something that gives you a little insight into what's going on. They want the Shah back. They want the Shah's son to be their ruler again. The last Shah wasn't such a great guy. And there's some who are there who wants the Shah back. There's some there who wants to be free of all this and wants a democracy. And there's different groups. They're all allied right now in getting rid of the Iranian regime, the terror regime. But there's that. But also they're saying, God bless Israel. God bless America. Left don't want you to hear that at all because they're building their entire argument around the anti-Israel stuff. They're building their entire argument with the Democratic Socialists about how terrible America is. And what's crazy is the talking points clearly went out. What were the talking points to Democrat leadership this weekend? Oh, it's a big tent, and we got space in our big tent for communist, anti-democratic, socialist, Jew-hating, pro-regime, anti-American lunatics. That's who we got space for in our big tent. The DCCC chair, Representative Susan DelBene, from right here in Washington, yes, her, she's in charge of all their fundraising over there. She did a sit-down interview with Chuck Todd over at MSDNC or whatever they're calling MS Now, that's what they're calling it right now. And you can hear this was the answer all of them were giving this weekend. Give a listen.
Are the Democratic Socialists welcome in the Democratic tent?
Yeah, we're a big tent. I want to make sure that our big tent is a tent that is in the majority and that we have the gavels.
So the socialists are welcome?
Voters are choosing people across the country, and those are part of folks who are being elected, and they're going to come and join the caucus. But I got to tell you, we have just incredible candidates running, and our job is to make sure we have those gavels so we can actually do the work of the American people.
So anything to get the gavel back. They don't mean judges, by the way. They mean in charge of the House, in charge of the Senate. That's what they're talking about. So you are willing to allow people into your party who don't just hate your party, they hate your ideas, and they hate your country. And you're allowing them to come into your party and you're welcoming them because you hate Trump that much. Because you hate Trump so much, you will let the fox into the henhouse in order to defeat him. That's how desperate you are to win. Well, what about the stuff these people say? I got to say, Chuck Todd actually did a great job with this interview, calling out Del Benny on this, and Del Benny's just spinning. He literally asks her about some of the horrible stuff they say, and she responds with a Kamala Harris-like word salad.
What do you tell Jewish Americans who are donors to the Democratic Party, who are concerned that the party is moving away from being supportive of the state of Israel?
I think I have always said that folks should talk directly to the folks running for office in their communities and ask them the tough questions about, kind of their concerns about what's happening, whether it's about what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening economically, what they're seeing with ICE in communities or the war in Iran. Talk to folks. That's why I feel like we're in such a strong position, because when people talk to the incredible candidates we have and the incumbents running for re-election, they're talking about tough issues and giving their view of where they stand and what they're going to do to make a difference. And that's really fundamentally how our democracy is supposed to work. But
are you concerned about where the rhetoric's gone on the left when it comes to Israel?
I think that people, again, you've heard kind of rhetoric across the board, and then you hear specifically from candidates where they stand, and they've been very clear. And I think you talked about from Tom Suozzi all across the country. We have incredible candidates. They've been very clear on where they stand, and that's why I think is so important, because I think you kind of talked about the nationalizing of every race. But I think maybe out in D.C. and other places, everyone's nationalizing. But when you go to a community, folks want to talk to the candidates who are running, and the reason why, kind of even when you look at polling that says the Democratic brand or the Republican brand are here, but when you actually talk about individuals and where they stand, very different. People are very supportive of Democratic candidates running because they're talking about the issues that matter, and people have a chance to.
Here's what a lot of, I think, Jewish Democrats have noticed, unfortunately, is that it doesn't seem as if the leadership of the party will push back when the rhetoric goes too far.
I think that's absolutely not true. In fact, look at what happened in Texas 35. There was a primary runoff in Texas 35 where, just terrible anti-Semitic comments made by a candidate who was running. And I think folks were very, very vocal. Johnny Garcia won in that runoff. He's our candidate. He's going to win in that seat. But I think people were very clear and very outspoken.
But you have a likely new member of Congress coming from New York City in Chevalier, who has said some very, very harsh things about Jewish Americans.
And I think, again, if you look across the board and talk to individual candidates, that's not representative of where other candidates land.
Right, but I
think
think
really
the concern has been it doesn't feel very forceful. It feels as if there's been an accommodation.
And I would disagree. I think folks have been very forceful across the board, and I think that there kind of always is a focus on what any one individual said, but I think if you look collectively at what people have said and stood for across the country, I think people have been very clear on many issues on where they stand, and are being very clear with voters, because again, these voters want to know where their member of Congress is stand. And I know there's a focus on New York City or some other place, at least, kind of sometimes in the media world, just closer to New York City. But if you go out on the ground, people want to know who is going to stand up for them in their community.
Okay. That is the line that was sent out. That was the memo that was sent out. And I'll tell you something here, my friends, is that nobody's buying it. Do you know how I know nobody's buying it? Some Democrats said, we want to do a pledge that says we support capitalism, that says we love America, we may have different ideals. Would you like to know how many Democrats out of 212 in Congress signed it? Would you like to know how many? 13. 13 whole Democrats. Most of them you've never heard of. In fact, I'd say all of them you haven't heard of. Nobody from leadership. So when you say they've been clear on this, when you say, oh, just talk to the candidates and hear what they have to say. I've heard what they have to say. They say America deserved 9/11. They say they hate Jews. They say they hate Americans. They say they want the end of America. They say they want communism. I've heard them loud and clear. I've heard them say they support jihadi groups. This is going to bite the Democrats in the you-know-what. You know why? It's not going to help them hold on to power, even if they win the House. Even if they win the House, they don't realize what they have sacrificed in order to win the House. What, you think they're going to make Hakeem Jeffries Speaker of the House? No. It's going to be somebody like AOC. Yeah, that's what's going to happen because the progressives are going to say, we're the captain now. That's what's going to happen next. We go to the KVI studio line, take a call from Stilgar out in Newcastle. Stilgar, what's going on, man?
Oh, so much to talk about. That last lady, good night. You know, I think the big warning that you get is when they say, let me be clear. And then you know that it's never going to be clear after that. But I was thinking about this whole pride thing, which, first of all, you know, I thought that went before fall. But they're saying, or they weren't protesting basically, and I think part of the issue is that it's so easy to bust on Christians and Jews because there's no risk. We don't come back. You know, we're easy targets, I think, because of just how tolerant we actually are. I had this idea that, you know, if they really, really were to do it, you would have drag queens in rainbow burqas up in the stands at the FIFA World Cup, and that would have been.
Well, no, something. I mean, there aren't a lot of kids at the thing, right? I mean, people don't spend that kind of money on the kids, so since there's no kids, they're not going to have the drag queens, right?
Well, they would have had a story hour, that's for sure.
Yeah, if they were serious about if they were serious about their values, they would have done all that stuff at the game. They're not. They're kowtowing they're kowtowing to the jihadis. That's what's going on. They're literally saying, okay, we're not going to do this. Why? We don't want to lose them from our coalition. Guys, I don't think you understand. You're next on their list. They're just using you. What happened to all those young students that were part of the Iranian Revolution, right? We know what happened to them.
Right. Well, yeah, they got co-opted, but they moved out. It's kind of like how all those businesses put the BLM signs up thinking that, well, that would make them safe. And, they learned their lesson when they got burned to the ground. It's like, it's...
Yeah, I'll remind you of this, Stilgar.
With the Palestinians, yes.
Right, Stilgar, I'll remind you of this, and this is right after the 2020 election. When it was on Inauguration Day. Inauguration Day, the Antifa types had a riot in Seattle where they smashed out the Starbucks windows down near Pike Place Market, and they were graffitiing all over the place. Rinse and repeat. It doesn't matter if it's Biden and Harris, rinse and repeat. Because until they get the anarchy or socialism or communism or whatever else it is, rinse and repeat. That is their method. Stilgar, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show, my friends. Just a reminder, head on over to KVI.com. You get to see my articles that I write before we do them on the show. So you get to see tomorrow's news today. That's right, my friends. Check it out over there. While you're there, a reminder to become a KVI insider. That way you can find out about all our events. In fact, wait a second, Kevin, let me get the date right on this. We're going to be out at the Bremerton Air Show next Sunday, not this Sunday. Next Sunday. This Sunday is July 4th. It's the week after that, isn't it?
If you say so, yeah.
Yeah, it's all blurring together. Yeah.
What is that, the 12th?
12th. The 12th. We're going to be out at the Bremerton Air Show for that one.
You'll be out there Sunday. I think I'll be out there Saturday.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be out there. I'll be out there next Sunday.
Times. Good
I
times.
had a great time at the Bremerton Air Show.
Yeah,
last
it's
time.
great.
Yeah, had a good time. Lots of fun. So anyway, coming out to the Bremerton Air Show, that'll be a lot of fun. Head on over to bremertonairshow.com. Get all the details on it. So yesterday was the Pride Parade. And if you happen to look past all the naked cyclists and debauchery, for lack of a better word, all the stuff that was going on 4th Avenue and in Seattle Center and people fully naked. What is this about, man? I don't need to see that. I really don't. That is not something anybody needs to see ever.
I don't get it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, what does it have to do with your, I guess whichever way you swing?
Well, a lot of people were swinging yesterday, I'll tell you that.
I guess it's become a celebration of sexuality? Is that what it is?
That's what it is. Well, the Pride thing is about sexuality. So what comes next? What comes next? It's just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't understand that either. Like I said, I think I said this a few weeks back that I was down at a movie screening that happened at Seattle Center where the parade just happened to be ending. I was completely oblivious that it was going to be ending down there. It was my wife and a friend of mine. We go to this movie and we come out. It was actually a 4K restoration of Carlito's Way with Al Pacino. Great movie. Yeah. Great movie. We come out and it's just dongs and and other things like right there as we walk out of this movie and look, I'm an adult. I'm pushing 50.
Sure.
We're kind of like, wow, okay, yeah.
This used to be a crime. Did you used to get arrested for like public urination and stuff? Public nudity, streaking?
I get that they're just like, look, they get this one day, let them go buck wild.
I don't think it's one day, man. I think it's a lot more than one day.
The parade itself or whatever.
The parade is
where they're like, all bets are off there. It's kind of like the solstice thing.
They had that last weekend. That's 2 days.
Yeah, Fremont. And everyone knows, hey, they're going to be naked. Just if that's not your thing, stay away from there. So, but do I think any of this is necessary? No.
Well,
what are we doing?
This is why I didn't bring back the KVI van yesterday. Aside from the traffic issues, I didn't want to be dealing with any of this because we're right near Seattle Center. I didn't want to deal with this at all. So,
yeah, in some ways it was kind of awesome. In other ways, it wasn't.
Oh, so you're saying 50-50?
I'm just...
Well, back then, a few years ago, it was more 50-50. Now you don't even know what you're looking at these days.
No, some of it is very apparent what you're looking at. I'm like, oh, wow, okay.
Oh, so that's how you do that.
You guys are going to get naked too. Okay,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, come on.
Yeah, let's just get out of here. So if you happen to walk past all the nakedness and look past the nakedness, you might have seen on 4th Avenue, the tents are back. The tents are back already. And I know exactly where those tents are in the videos because I drove past them this morning. All right, for those of you who don't know, there is a King County Health Facility on 4th Avenue South. And the King County Health Facility gives out drug paraphernalia. So if you're an addict living in a tent, you want to be as close as you possibly can to your next fix. And if they're giving out the supplies, well, great, let's set up shop over there. There were like, 7, 8 tents over there. And the parade's just working around them. I saw them this morning when I'm driving in. They didn't get rid of them. So to answer your question about how soon after the World Cup is Katie Wilson and crew going to let the city go to hell? Basically as soon as it's over. Because you know how she said she was going to sweep 12th and Jackson? They went in there one day, sent in one cop, and nothing's changed. In fact, our friend Andrea Suarez from We Heart Seattle says that them and a few other homeless agencies are going to be going to Lewis Park, where we made that video a couple weeks ago, given how bad it's gotten, and they're going in there. And they invited Bob Ferguson and Katie Wilson and city council members to join them. They'll never go. They'll never go because they know how bad it is, and they don't want to admit it. Katie Wilson probably thinks, oh, they just got fired by Jeff Bezos. That's not what it is. You know how bad this is? I'll give you an example. According to the U.S. Marshals Service, a missing Arizona girl believed to be at risk of sex trafficking has been safely recovered from a massive homeless encampment in Olympia, Washington, following a multi-agency operation. The juvenile had been reported missing to the Mesa Police Department in May. Don't forget, if you're a kid, you can run away here and get whatever gender surgeries you want or abortions or whatever else, and the state will hide you from your parents. I'm not saying that's why this person is here, but remember, you can do that. Investigators received a tip on June 18th from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, indicating that she may have been trafficked into Washington State. Federal investigators traced the lead to Olympia's notorious homeless encampment, known as the Jungle, a roughly 20-acre site along I-5 near the Sleater-Kinney Road interchange. Deputy U.S. Marshals assigned to missing child investigations in the Western District of Washington coordinated with the Washington State Department of Corrections to search the encampment. Authorities located the girl on Thursday, transferred her to the Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families. I don't know if that's better. And the Olympia Police Department to receive care and victim services. Quote, protecting our nation's children is of the highest importance, said acting U.S. Marshal Don Ryan Stevens. He credited federal, state, and local partners for working together to safely recover a child who was considered to be at heightened risk of human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. Olympia officials have estimated between 100 and 250 people are typically camping inside the jungle. The U.S. Marshal Service described the encampment as an area that sees regular violence and public safety concerns. In 2023, a woman was found dead in the encampment. Found dead. So you find this young girl, probably being trafficked. Is she a runaway? We don't know. Was found inside a homeless encampment in Olympia, Washington. What, you think there isn't the exact same thing going on here in Seattle? But if you talk to Katie Wilson, no, that's not the problem. Katie Wilson just needed that press release out about 12th and Jackson because that video I did with Jonathan Cho and Andrea Suarez was going viral, and she was getting calls about it. Hey, Mayor Wilson, people are noticing that Seattle's not as clean as you want. They had a press conference today. Her, Bob Ferguson, Gurmay Zahalai, and Dow Constantine had a press conference today about how great things are going, how wonderful things are going. During this, we found out, would you like to know how many people paid for the light rail on those record-setting days they had? 66%. So what you're telling me is a third of people who use the light rail didn't pay for it? A third. Wait a second. That kind of tracks. So if 2/3 of the people are tourists, that means everybody who lives here didn't pay for the light rail because they know you don't have to. Kevin, you'd be so proud of me. I paid for the light rail. I actually paid. I got my daughter with me. I want to set a good example. I paid for the light rail for me and her. Guess how many people checked our tickets? Zero. None.
And this was the day of the game.
The day of the Iran-Egypt game.
Aren't the rides free?
No. But
I thought they were.
They said they were. They said they're not. They can't make up their minds if they are, if they're not, whatever the case may be. They said they weren't.
Well, I was in Philadelphia for the Croatia game.
Yes.
And this was Saturday.
Okay.
And the subway was free there.
Oh, subway's free.
Sorry, going there was not.
Yes.
Leaving the stadium was free.
Because they don't want you to drink and drive.
No. Yeah, sure. But I think it was just they were so overwhelmed that they knew okay, you can figure out your own way out there, but it's so overwhelming with the people leaving. They said, we're not going to worry about
we just got to get, there's no way to just go.
Yeah.
Just go. They have turnstiles and stuff, don't
they? Have turnstiles.
Yeah. Just go. Go.
And so all that was unlocked.
They've done that in New York from time to time when they just can't handle the crowds of people. And they're like, between the ticketing machines and the this and that, we can't. We got to get you out of here. We got to get all you people out of here. So
and I don't think the subway is that robust. Obviously New York is like crazy, but in Philadelphia, I don't think it's as robust as.
It's better. No, it's pretty good.
Is it? Because good. All I know is the stadium, which is the Eagles Stadium, is where the FIFA stuff was happening. That's South Philly.
Yeah.
And then downtown. So it was that running from basically South Philly through downtown and north.
Just get everybody out.
Yeah, just get them out.
That's the goal. Plus, also, you don't want something awful happening. Everybody's trapped by turnstiles.
Yeah.
You don't want a stampede of people, which is what you're worried about. So we got more tales from the World Cup for you. In fact, when we come back, a group flew to town to protest FIFA, including all the pride stuff. Let's put it this way. I didn't recognize their accent. So we're going to have a conversation with them. We'll play that for you when we come back. We'll give you all the details. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. It was great seeing so many of you on Sunday for the Let's Go Washington event to repeal the income tax out in Bellevue. It was also great to see so many of you at the World Cup. There are people I have not seen in years, literally years out the World Cup, and so many KVI listeners came up to the table. Something else that was fun were the tourists. Tourists came over, and they go, can I talk? Can I, talk? Is this, live? Can we talk? In broken English? It was great. We really had a great time out there on Friday out in front of the World Cup. And this one guy came up to talk to me because he said he and this group flew in not for the game, but to protest all the pride insanity. This is Sebastian. I didn't catch his last name, but here's what he told me. All right, we are here in front of Seattle Stadium, and what's your name, sir?
Sebastian.
Sebastian. Okay, what are you guys doing here today? You guys don't sound like you're from around the Seattle area.
No, we're from all around. We've actually just launched a worldwide campaign. Sorry about my voice. Has been an intense last few.
You've been doing a lot of interviews.
That's what I sound like at the end of the day. Exactly. Yeah. You know how it is. But we've been doing a worldwide campaign around what's going on today in Seattle. We see that this is FIFA's imposition of hijacking of the World Cup, which should be about sport, about football, with a certain ideology, with a certain agenda. So FIFA goes on about how their neutrality, they want to impose neutrality, they want to execute neutrality, exercise neutrality in football around the world. But suddenly, when it comes to a game in Seattle, they think it's perfectly fine to make it themed with a pride march or a pride theme of the game. Now, why is this controversial? Well, let's start with the two teams that are playing. The two teams that are playing, Egypt and Iran, I think with FIFA going ahead with this idea, it's a complete lack of respect to their cultures and to their traditions and to their religions in general. That's a side of that. Aside of that, FIFA has been for years in our leagues in Europe, for example, in the French league, in the Italian league, in the British, in the Premier League, in the English Premier League. We're seeing how Christian players are sanctioned. They take off their shirt for celebrating a goal, saying a phrase from the Bible or something about Jesus, and they get sanctioned, or fans get sanctioned for a picture of Jesus or a picture of Mary or something like that. So politics and religion has to be out of the sport, but suddenly at the World Cup, at the highest stage of football, they're imposing an LGBT-themed game at the World Cup. So for us, this is a complete double standards from FIFA's side, and that's why we're here to say no to LGBT agenda in the World Cup. Let football just be football. It's about uniting people. It's about uniting people, keeping politics aside and uniting people. And this kind of LGBT agenda within the game is basically just divisive, in my opinion.
So, to play devil's advocate, because we do this on my show a lot, devil's advocate is if they allowed every ideology, would you be okay with that, or you just say get rid of every ideology so we don't have these problems?
Well, the idea of neutrality came from FIFA in general in the first place. But if they allowed every idea and every ideology, then we're not concentrating on football anymore, are we? We're concentrating on all the ideologies and all the flags, and you're not going to come in with 2 country flags anymore. You're going to come in with 1,000 country flags, and everyone's going to wave what they believe in and what they're after and all this. So I think there's got to be a line, right? I think there's certain things that are inherent to us, for example, our religion, our self, our countries, and those things we should be allowed to express. Now, I think sexuality just happens to be, it's my opinion, happens to be one of those things where I don't see why you have to kind of express it in every stage and every sphere in society. I think it's that's an issue that has been debated, and that's a whole topic, right? That's a whole topic for conversation. But I think the line has to be drawn somewhere. Otherwise, you're going to have colours everywhere, ideas everywhere, and you're not going to talk about football anymore in the World Cup. You know?
Sure. So going along that theme, are they putting other themes in other cities? Because this is Seattle's move here, and FIFA kind of acquiesced to what they wanted. So Seattle goes, we want to have a Pride Night. They didn't even know who was playing in the game yet, and they established this thing. Is this something that's happening in other cities too, or this is just happening here?
Well, this is just happening here, but as you said, they didn't know who was going to be drawn for this match. So it was actually quite comical that these two teams came out of the box. Now, I think that's interesting. The fact that they're going ahead with it shows that they're quite keen on pursuing this, and they have quite a bit of disregard for the opinions of the associations. In fact, the Egyptian Association and the Iranian Association up to this morning have been calling FIFA and asking them to get rid of the themed entrance and the themed ceremony because it goes against their culture. So I think FIFA is not respecting the culture of the participants. That's for starters. Now, when it comes to other matches, no, I think this is the only themed match. It happens to be Seattle. I'm not surprised it's Seattle from all the options out there, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and I think Seattle is definitely going to embrace it in their way as they always have been. As I think pride is pretty big here.
Well, you missed before when the pride-colored police car came by and they did a whole photo shoot with it in front of the stadium. You missed that moment. I got pictures of it if you want to see it.
Wow. No,
Yeah.
no.
Okay, last question before we let you go, and this has been great. Thank you for sharing your time with us. So, if you have something like FIFA going on, and you have this event going on, and you have all these people here, and it's in countries across the world, is there something to be said for, okay, last time we were in Qatar, and we respect the Qatari customs, and this time we go to America, we do whatever it is they do. Is there something to be said for that? Because I remember being told last time, when they went to Qatar, you had to respect those customs, but then they come here, and they go, you got to respect our customs, and I'm a little confused by that.
No, that is the argument they're bringing to the table. It's an interesting argument. I think it's got elements of truth to it as well. For example, in Qatar, you weren't allowed to drink. I mean, alcohol consumption was very difficult, if not impossible, and other different things that you had to respect, of course, the country, the host country. Now, the big question I would ask you back here is pride, and LGBT pride, an American value? That's the question. I mean, and I would argue it's not. So I think that's the debate. Whereas I think this interview has been great at showing that the conversation is wide, it's broad. You can approach it from different areas. But the fact of the matter is, I think LGBT as an ideology is just so fervent, it's so strong now, it's so pushed, it's so forced that we've got flags up there. For us, it's a shock to see this. And I think that's just, it's overly forced, it's overused. I mean, it gets to the stage where why do you need it on every corner of the street, right? So I think it goes down to that at the end of the day.
Well, Sebastian, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy your time in Seattle, aside from all that. I hope you guys come and have a good time, all right?
We're enjoying it already.
Very nice to talk to you.
Yeah, I think that dude's British. He said quite keen at one point. So I think that's British. I don't think that's anything else, right?
And then what did you say? Maybe South African or something? Did you say that as well?
Yeah, maybe. I can't tell because his voice was so scratchy.
It's so hoarse.
But
yeah.
they flew in. I put up the video on my social media channels where you can see the signs they're holding behind me. They just want the politics out of it. That's really their big thing. And we kind of say the same thing all the time. If he's British, if he's from the UK, you kind of look at the stuff that's going on in the UK, and I kind of look at the UK these days as a cautionary tale of how that place is falling apart. It's pretty scary.
Right.
Pretty scary. I mean, just with the unchecked immigration and what's happened to the UK and the protests they got going on, I'm surprised they still have a king. I'm surprised he hasn't been violently overthrown yet. I think if he had power, he'd probably be gone by now.
Did this guy point out anything specifically down there when you were there? Like where he said, that's blatant and that should be taken care of? Because I did hear him talk about...
I think he was pointing at the pride flag on a building across the way. There's this big pride flag. That was really one of the only things I saw. I think he may have been a little bit more disappointed because, like I said, there wasn't a lot of pride stuff there. You show up and they kind of put it away already because, the two teams were threatening to walk off the pitch.
Yeah.
And they should have let them. If you guys believe in this, should have let them. There would have been a forfeit for both teams. I don't really think it would have affected Egypt a little bit, but it would have affected Iran's out. So that would have, if you believe in this stuff so strongly, let them walk off the pitch. That's just my feeling on it. Only good news to wrap up the show. Good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your evening commute. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Only good news to wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And once again, just want a big shout out to young Zach for helping me out at the game. Also, my daughter, who was there helping me out at the game the other day. A lot of stuff. And going down on the death scooters, carrying all that gear, I would not do that again. Zach, here's how he's on the death scooter. Zach had the folding table. It's a smaller folding table, but he had a folding table between his legs because he thought it was going to be smaller than it was, and it was a little bit too big. I don't know how he's pushing off with his leg on them scooters.
Yeah.
On the desk scooters, but he had it between his legs. He went down there like a pro.
Hey, you know I've had my own battles with those scooters.
Indeed.
And former producer Mike had his own battle with those scooters as well. I'm sure you guys had helmets though, right? Right?
So my wife got a little cross with me when she heard that we took the desk scooters down there and that and my daughter's like, what do you mean, Ma? I do it all the time. She's like, you do what? And I got to say, now if I ever get on a desk scooter, I will take gear with me. Just because, you ever go on the waterfront with the desk scooters?
Yeah, yeah.
Those blind corners and the people coming, that is not safe.
Yeah, and if it's it's like a highway of different bikes and different scooters and all that stuff. Yeah. It's cool that they opened that up, but the way it kind of kicks out around
not
crosswalks.
Not safe. And people can just walk out at any time.
Yeah.
And you don't know the traffic signals or anything. Yeah. It's not safe.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're the desk scooters.
I took that route. I had some issues with it.
Did you? It was that route.
It was that route down on the waterfront.
Did you hit the train tracks? Is that what happened?
Something like that.
Something like that.
But it is kind of hairy down there.
My sister-in-law took my niece to the doctor for her physical, which you have to get before going on summer programs, just like playing sports. Seattle Times and everybody else. Takes her for a physical, and she goes, so what's most of your business these days? These kind of appointments? And he goes, no, the desk scooters. He said it was the desk scooters was number one. Then she had another doctor's appointment.
Oh, yeah.
And for him, it was desk scooters were number two, and something else stupid related was number one. It was all the same kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's the desk scooters. That's what's sending all the business his way. Anywho, kudos to Zach for that. Really, really big thank you to that. Also, it was so nice to see so many of you at the game, but it was also so nice to see so many of you that came out to the Let's Go Washington event in Bellevue yesterday. I mean, really, it was so great to see so many of you who came out there. We gave away a lot of flags. We gave away a lot of constitutions. And that reminds me, it looks like on Thursday, so Wednesday, we're going to be broadcasting from the Capitol. I think we're going to be in the Cannon Building, which is one of the office buildings for members of Congress. On Wednesday, though, Thursday. Thursday, our plan is right now to try to get into the Great American State Fair. And what I want to do is I want to bring a box of KVI flags, and I want to bring a box of KVI constitutions. And I want to give them out to State Fair because Governor Bob Ferguson and Lieutenant Governor Denny Heck say they're not doing anything for the fair. You know, we do things for the fair all the time. I know how hard it is to staff a booth. I do know how hard it is to staff a booth. And I only do it one day a week during the Puyallup Fair. Sorry, the Washington State Fair. I know it takes a lot of time and coordination, but, you know, you can pay people to do that, and they'll do it. It'll happen. But there's no booth for Washington right now. Yeah, there's this little backdrop thing. So I think we'll go there, and we'll set up, and we'll call attention to the fact that we're there and Turd Ferguson isn't. I think that will be a lot of fun on Thursday. Also, you know who we have an interview scheduled with for Thursday? Secretary Linda McMahon of the Department of Education. I'm very excited about that interview. Never had her on the show before. And, guys, I don't know if you heard the news. Seattle Times actually broke this today. Apparently, there was a discussion among the airports that they might need presidential clearance on Monday. You're going, wait, the president is coming here? Yes! If America is going to be playing Team America, if they're going to be playing in Seattle on Monday, guess who's coming to town, boys and girls? It might be the man himself, President Donald Trump. So I reached out to the White House right away. I reached out to my contact. I'm like, is he coming? Is he coming? Is he coming? And they're like, well, we're not entirely sure yet, but if he's coming, we'll let you know. And I'm like, interview? Can I, honor of lifetime. Can I go down there? I'm like, I'll fly to D.C. to fly on Air Force One with whatever you guys want, whatever you need, I'll do it. Now, we don't know for sure this is happening yet, so everybody's got to be rooting for Team USA. You got to be rooting for Team USA because, number one, wasn't it great to have them in Seattle? That was great. I'll deal with the traffic. I will take the light rail another time. I will do it. But if we get to interview the man himself, President Donald J. Trump, that would be phenomenal. That would be fantastical. That would be everything. That would just be great. So, anywho, I think that would be a lot of fun. I've had him on the phone before, but it's not the same as meeting him in person. So I'd really be looking forward to that. So I think that'd be a lot of fun. Kevin, I'm dragging you along. That's right. You get no say in the matter. You're coming down. You're going to meet him. We'll get a picture and everything. It'll be great. You can stand there. It'll be a lot of fun. Right? I can tell how excited you are about this.
You say so.
All right.
When is
Kevin
this?
will come. Monday.
This is Monday?
This is literally Monday. So if the U.S., I'm pretty sure the game's on Monday. They said it was for Monday. I think it's for Monday. Isn't it for Monday?
Well, aren't they playing this week, Wednesday, but they'd have to win?
They have to win. And then they go to the knockout or whatever. The next level is on Monday. That's what
right.
it is. So, yeah, that's the one they're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. The protest should be fun. We get to cover the protest. We get to cover the president. Oh, my God.
Someone's got to be back here pressing buttons, though. That's the way it works.
Fine. Wait a second. We got to figure out who's monitoring the tech stuff, because I assume there'll be way more interference than last Friday. We got to figure that out before Monday. Yeah, we will definitely do that. So it would be pretty fun if the president's coming to town. But anywho, really, really looking forward to the D.C. trip. We'll give you all the details about what's going on in D.C. We'll try to make it like the RNC where you felt like you were there. We're going to try and do that for the 4th of July in D.C. So we'll try and give you the best coverage we possibly can while on the road, and we'll try to make some viral content where we're giving out constitutions and flags because we know how much Bob Ferguson doesn't like the Constitution. So we'll try to do that. And anytime we go to these events, there's always people who go, KVI, I used to live in Seattle. And I'm like, well, we have a website and we have podcasts and all that kind of stuff. You can download it all right here. So that'll be a lot of fun. So look for that content later in the week. We will be back in studio tomorrow, my friends, with more insane stories and more exciting guests, plus more chances to win fantabulous prizes. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.